30 years of PlayStation?
Christmas comes early at the Game Awards.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Square, the PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, as always, is one Mr. Chris Figs. Chris, let the people know how you're doing today.
I'm doing okay. Survived my concussion. Just finished doing trivia at my job. So
that's how you know you're okay now.
Yeah. I suffered through trivia with a bunch of 45-year-old people. It's great, dude. So this is the first. So last time I did trivia, they got a bunch of the questions right. So like I do 40 questions, and some people were getting like 35. So I went, okay, bet. So
pretty good.
So this week I did video game trivia, and then I saw the people who were coming in, and I was like, you guys are all fucked.
Did you? So now I got to know, what was your criteria for coming up with your questions specifically for video game trivia?
Or just literally any video game trivia I knew I used.
Did you do stuff that's a little more core focused, or did you try and be a little more on the vibe of like anyone who's like tangentially messed around with video games has a decent chance of knowing this? Or were you just like put them in a body bag?
It was both.
Who designed the PlayStation 1 in 1994?
You want to do a quick 10? I got them up still.
Well, we can do that at the end. I think that sounds fun.
All right.
But yeah, we'll do that after we have been rolling in the show for anybody who wants to stick around for a little something extra. So, all right, Chris, good. I'm glad. For anyone who didn't know, of course, we didn't have an episode last week because Chris had a last-minute concussion.
Same day.
And I think we made the right call by not having the episode. Chris was like, I can record, but I was like, Chris, I don't think you should record.
Well, my thing was like, I wanted to get the episode out, but like, I think I had told you, like, I was straight up just forgetting shit. Like, I'm the head chef at this restaurant, and I looked at one of my cooks and I was like, I don't remember how to make this cheeseburger. Now, the cheeseburger is American cheese, bacon, and onions. And I was like, I don't remember what else is on this. So then I worked the next day, and I was like putting stuff in the oven. I looked at Yvonne. I'm like, you need to watch this because I will not remember it's in there. And then guess what happened 30 minutes later? I burned fucking corn because that asshole wasn't watching the goddamn oven like I told him to.
Yvonne,
God
that's
damn it.
good. Yeah, that's funny.
That was fun.
I'm glad that you're okay on the other side of it.
Thank you for your patience, and thank you for the audience for understanding. I felt bad.
Yeah, of course, man. I am glad that I had the wherewithal to just tell you no, because I know that you would have just been in the episode being like, Dino Crisis.
Well, that's what I said to you. I'm like, you may have to edit more if we record today because I don't know that I'll remember everything that you're saying.
Yeah. And at some point I had to go through that. If it's that bad, I don't think that trying to edit around Chris is even still going to make a salvageable episode. Just because I can get words in sequence that don't sound stuttered, that doesn't mean they're going to be sensible. So
it honestly would have been a fascinating episode for you to be like, yeah, Cyberpunk is really great. And I'm like, I've been thinking about playing Red Dead again.
What would have been funny is that someone would have been trying to dig down. They'd have some kind of like Charlie looking at the wall from Always Sunny, and they'd be like, in this episode, Chris actually gives details to when Bloodborne Remastered comes out. and then today's news of the Days Gone Remastered being still a rumored thing would just, they'd be like, damn it. So
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, Chris, I'm glad you're there. We're going to go ahead and we're going to be pretty different today. It's going to be a little bit looser of a structure than normal. We're not chasing down a bunch of news. What we intended on doing last week is what we want to kind of carry on. It is PlayStation's 30th anniversary. They're doing a bunch of stuff for it. We thought it would be a fun time since it's been quite a while. So where we can just kind of go through some of our favorite memories being PlayStation fans, kind of memories that we have tied to the brand and some of the consoles when different, because Chris and I came into the platform at very different times. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that I think we don't talk about a lot in the show, but I think if you ever pay a lot of attention to the types of games that Chris references that are older, if they're PlayStation games, you're probably not remembering him talking about much that's not PS3.
Yeah.
And so that may clue you in for anyone who's not noticed that Chris's dive into the gaming sphere for PlayStation was specifically on the PS3 side. But we'll get into all that. First, we're going to go ahead and still start off the show in a time-honored tradition of checking in on what we've been playing, because finally I have escaped purgatory. Hold on. Okay, I am not dreaming. I have beaten Persona 5, kind of, also not really. But Chris, I'm going to go ahead and throw this over to you. What have you been playing, and what should the people be on the lookout for?
So let's start off with two games that maybe the quickest one. I finished Cyberpunk 2077. That was nice. My 150th platinum. That was really nice.
Was it a planned 150?
Not originally. And then I was like, fuck it. I'm happy with Cyberpunk. So I platinumed Unpacking in 20 minutes, which is one of the other games that I played was Unpacking.
Holy PS4 shit. Can version. You really? Can you platinum that game that quickly?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'll just say, I didn't know about this my first playthrough. My first playthrough was a reel. It took like 5 hours. But I was watching just a guy, like a quick YouTube video on it. And there's an accessibility setting where you don't have to put the luggage in the proper place. So it's literally just bam, 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 done. And so you just have to get like the miscellaneous trophies that are around.
Oh man, that's done, wild. So. See, now this comes to, I don't want to derail us too much, but I do want to have a quick thing of you having played it both ways. Mm-hmm. There's often a conversation about accessibility and what it should mean for games and everything. But I feel like what makes Unpacking good is paying attention to where you're putting the stuff. Mm-hmm. And so at some point, I often wonder, because the game series that always comes to mind when people talk about accessibility and potentially ruining what the game is trying to say is typically Souls-like games, because they're like, well, the challenge is part of it. It's supposed to be part of the game. But while I agree, and I personally wouldn't want the Souls games to have a difficulty slider, I think that where the things get unpacked to is more integral to Unpacking than the difficulty is to Souls games. Yeah. And so how do you feel having played the game where the items do not correlate in such a way where they're really going to tell you the story in the way that, because that game is all about story, but just in a very subtle way. It's hard to describe, but
it has an actually like very affecting story. Actually,
dude, I teared up the first time I played the game.
The way it tells the story is awesome. It's gorgeous. It's very much like, because that's the thing, you're moving through this person's life. I think it lost any sense of being interesting, and I feel like that's obvious, but like, you've played it. Yeah, you played it on Xbox or something, right?
Well, Unpacking? No, I played it on PlayStation like a year ago.
Oh, I didn't realize you had done that.
So I got the platinum. I mean,
gotcha.
the legitimate way, playing through and just figuring it out.
And I think so we've both played it, so you probably agree, is like a lot of that game is you putting yourself into this position of, I'm moving into this new place, which the whole point of it, like, the whole thing is like, when you first start, you don't have very much shit to put away because you're a child, right? And then by the end, you're putting away a lot more boxes because a lot more things have happened in your life, right? And that's part of the way it tells its story, is almost in the I don't know. Did you play it over one play session like I did?
No, I think I played it across like 2 days, but it was very back to back. I think I got started it one night and finished it the next morning, right? Because I was like obsessed with it. Like when I woke up, I was like, I gotta finish. I gotta see what's happening.
I gotta put that fucking teddy bear in the right spot. But I think one of the things is that like it tells its story in its monotony, right? There's a story in, holy fuck, I don't want to put any more. I still have 4 rooms of boxes to put away. I've been doing this for an hour. You know what I mean? And like, that is very much, while also you're seeing like, oh, I'm putting a man's shoes away now, or I'm adjusting a man's underwear and going with my underwear, and stuff like this. So you see the progression of this person's life. And when I was playing, it was just like all the shit's on the floor. Hit the gold star, flush all the toilets, whatever it was. So like that, there's no point in playing it the way I played it, unless you were doing it specifically for the reason I was doing it, which was Cyberpunk's going to be my
Platinum,
150th platinum, so this is 149. It was actually to the point where I was doing this platinum, and like I just did one of the levels like regular. Like I just put everything away like properly. Because there was also this little bit of like, well, I actually don't even have enough room on the floor. So like some of the stuff's got to go where it goes, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like with accessibility, you know, it's like, I want everyone to be able to experience everything, but I would not be a Souls fan if I hadn't almost orgasmed when I killed Cleric Beast for the first time. Right? That was my first Bloodborne boss, or that was my first Souls boss, was Cleric Beast. And when I finally beat it, that was an experience that made me a fan of that genre. Right? And if I had it on easy mode and it was like 2 slashes and he's done, I don't even know if I finished Bloodborne. But like that boss taking me 20, 30 tries, finally getting through that and having that feeling of, holy shit, I did it. And then that carrying through an entire series of video games and, you know, a Sony potential first party studio, right? That all kind of has to do with how difficult it is, you know? So that conversation specifically, it's like, put colorblind settings in. People are really scared of spiders, whatever, make them dots or whatever the hell you people do. But like, I don't think like those games specifically, like the details, the difficulty is part of it, right? The point of the journey of Elden Ring is the struggle of getting through the journey of Elden Ring, you know? And maybe that doesn't matter to some people, but Elden Ring, you know, FromSoft games are like the worst argument I hear for this, because there is no story for you to experience, really. You know? There's story in there, but you're not going, okay, I will say definitively, nobody is going to Dark Souls for the story. But you can find as much story as you want in Dark Souls. Obviously, people have made their career in this.
It's similar to Mortal Shell, which Mortal Shell actually had a lot more of a story, realistically. Like if you didn't have to pay attention much to figure out what's happening in Mortal Shell. Yeah. But the thing about all those games is like it's almost like they're a vibe. It's like you hop in and it's like there's a feeling here. And they're different from game to game. Like Bloodborne's feeling is different than Demon Souls feeling, which is different from Sekiro's feeling. And Sekiro's also got a little bit more of a story too. I don't know. They're very interesting, but there's just something about hearing that a game like Unpacking is willing, and of course they're the developer. They can do whatever they want. And I don't begrudge anyone being able to play it. But, and I'm not even really going to say that anyone played it wrong, but I guess I mourn anyone playing that game and not getting to experience very clearly what the simplicity behind that game is telling you.
I would say you are playing it wrong. I'm going to be honest. Like, I would genuinely full on.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm joining you. I'm crossing the line. Yeah, you're playing it wrong. You are. It's almost like this feels like making it, and this is going to sound crazy, but this feels like taking Before Your Eyes, that game where you blink to move time forward, and then having an accessibility setting for people who can't blink. Right. How does it, you know, I know that functionally makes Before Your Eyes no longer work, because literally to move forward, well, I say that there is accessibility in that game. You can make it to where you just click through.
Right.
But how much more effective is that game when you are literally like, this is such a sweet moment? And I don't think you've played that game. You might have. It's on VR.
I didn't.
But it is one of those games where you'll find yourself in a moment and you'll see the little clicker come up and you'll be like, fuck, I haven't blinked in a while. And now if I blink, I'm going to lose this. And like, it's sometimes you'll find yourself being like, I'm not ready. I'm not wanting to let this go yet. Or no, she's telling me something. What is it? I want to hear it. I want to spend more time with this. It's weird. And then you'll find yourself like, ticker come up. It's like, shit, next time I blink, I'm done. And then it's like, it's brutal, because you're trying everything in you to be like, don't blink, don't fucking blink, you bitch.
You're doing the like one eye with the other eye wide open kind of thing.
Exactly. And so I know it's not quite the same, but man, it just feels like playing a really beautiful game in the worst way possible. And that's unfortunate. you're blowing my mind by telling me that basically whoever made this game is like, oh yeah, you also just don't have to do anything about the point of the game.
Yeah. I don't know. It to me, like the biggest thing, and I'll always respect Josh for this. When we were doing midweek matinee, it was like originally a 4-man crew, and we had Josh who was part of it. Great episodes with him. The fucking House of 1,000 Corpses. Go listen to that. I just listened to that recently. Still funny. But one of the things with him is that we all knew that he was probably not going to watch a horror movie because it made him uncomfortable. Right. Mm-hmm. And we could all rib him and do all of that shit. But like, imagine if he texted Blake, I'll watch Saw, but make sure you give me timestamps for every time a murder happens. That's how a lot of the accessibility conversation happens, where I think, or at least it feels to me, because I'm not someone who needs these things. Although, again, I did tell the story of my ex-girlfriend was colorblind. So, like, I spent time, like, looking specifically for games that had colorblind settings to play with her.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, and again, that's different than necessarily what we're talking about. But a lot of it just seems like I can't do this, but I should be able to. When the reality is, like, I can't play racing games, so I don't. You know, I don't like platformers, so I don't play them. But you're not going to hear me go, Crash Bandicoot should be easier so I can see the fucking story. You know, and I think that's kind of the thing is like there needs to be. I've always been on this show a little bit more of the like realist in the way of like the company's not your friends. Yes, Last of Us cost $60. I don't know why you're surprised. Like I've been that guy, and I think I'm that guy again here, where it's like at a certain point you just need to go, I'm not capable of playing this.
Or I think I'm not the market for this.
Right. Or I really want to play Elden Ring. Let me challenge myself and figure it out.
Yeah.
You There are thousands of video games released each month. So I think the thing for me is there's a lot of the conversations feels like FOMO in some ways, but then there's a lot of like, again, legitimate stuff like colorblind settings. I think should be in every game. You know, I think dyslexia settings that should be in every game, but you know, I say this in
I think the difference is that difficulty is so it is vague. It is in the it's in the context of the person, and so I think it makes it really difficult to even pull that off because what's difficult to one person is very easy to another. Mm-hmm. And for any number of reasons, whereas like colorblind is something that we can go, no, this is what it is, and this is how you fix it. Right. I think even difficulty is just hard because like, how do you dial it in? You know, and I think some of my favorite games that actually do go, hey, the difficulty is not an important part of this game. So if you want to make it harder, feel free to do so. If you want to make it easier, feel free to do so. I think the best examples of games that recognize that about their design, and then the ones that choose to have the developers go, we're going to open it completely up. You choose. How much damage do you do to the enemies? How much damage do they do to you? What's the multiplier on your damage? Like, you know, all these weird things. Do you get a free dodge every time the first hit you would take? Do you not take damage? There's a lot of games that kind of have this, how much experience do you earn per kill against an enemy? You know, there's survival games. It's like, how quickly do you go dehydrate? Do you just want to make it to where you can't dehydrate? And, you know, I know it gets weird. And ultimately, I think the more broad a game is, the more fun you can be had with it. Because when we were doing Conan, one of the things that we did in Conan in our private server was made it to where things got built ever so slightly quickly. Or not things, sorry, animals in particular. And I guess technically whenever you get around to taking slaves, you basically break them so much quicker. So in the actual context of the game, it takes so long to get an animal to like be okay with you so that you can use it as a pet. We made that significantly quicker. And I think we made it to where we sprinted a little quicker, but that didn't drastically change the thing. We still made sure we had to eat, we had to drink. So yeah, at some point you got to go, what's the base of the game? What is it wanting me to do? How much is turning this off? Going against what makes this game great to everyone anyway. And I guess what I'll do to kind of close it out is, I'm not saying that games and the people who make them shouldn't be able to do what they want. We've had this conversation a few times, but I guess I would imagine that you've really got to know at what point would the game allowing you to change itself take away from the experience that everyone else actually loved? And at what point are you no longer playing the game that everyone's raving about? And I think that's a difficult conversation in games that have a lot more things going on. But in a game as simple as Unpacking, where the goal is to literally take things that were packaged, take them out of the box and put them up, and where the entirety of the game and its story is told by the where and when you're placing these things, I feel like that accessibility setting makes it to where you are not playing the game that everyone is going, have you played this? It's incredible and unique and weird. And it's gone at that point. And what's the value? That's really what you got to ask yourself. I don't hate that it's there, but if anyone comes to me and says, "Oh, I played Unpacking," and then they said I played it with the accessibility that let you put anything anywhere, I'm like, you didn't play Unpacking.
Yeah,
we can't talk about the game because you don't have a single bit of the context that I have. And the thing is that anyone who plays the game has the context. Whether or not they choose to see the story that's being told in that context is up to them, because the game is not overt. But I told you there's cool stuff about. It's just a small thing, but noticing that you move from one place where you're older and you're single to where suddenly you're in a relationship, and the things that you had out front and center because it made you put them there on your bookshelves where everyone can see it right by the door, now being put away in a corner in the closet or slid under your bed. And it's like, wow, being in a relationship in this situation for this person feels like I'm having to hide myself to be somebody that they want me to be. And that's such a great and subtle storytelling characteristic, and it's part of what makes games great because no other medium can do that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's so awesome about Unpacking is that like there's even a moment where like the game doesn't tell you anything about the relationship except the next house you're in is much smaller and doesn't even have a toilet, and you're like, I bet I know what happened here. You know?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of like the conversation we were just having goes back to my theory on PlayStation remasters. All of this is just to sell copies of games to trophy hunters.
Yeah. Because that feels like the only reason for that setting.
If that setting disabled trophies, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Like that was I think it was Flintlock, Siege of the New Dawn, that was one of those games that got yelled at about Sweet Baby. But one of the things that I loved and almost bought that game for is that if you played on easy or story, I think it was, if you played on story, you didn't earn any trophies. You didn't earn combat trophies. You didn't earn collectibles trophies. You didn't earn story trophies. You got nothing.
I know what game you're talking about. Yeah, the one, it's like a Souls-like.
Yeah. And people were up in arms about it. I'm like, that's awesome. You get what you want, but you didn't experience the game in the way they intended, so they're not rewarding you. You want to play a Souls-like like a pussy, you don't get anything for it. And I think that's dope.
Yeah. All right. Well, I didn't mean to have that derail, but I think that's a very interesting conversation. And I'd almost be curious to see how many people have actually played Unpacking that way. And
don't tell me. I'm going to call you wrong and probably yell at you. Don't say that. Unless it was your second playthrough, don't tell me that. I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
But
dude, I don't even know if I do it. I don't even know if I could do that on playthrough 2 because I know that game is good.
Dude, the thing is,
but like, I get you. But then again, I almost wonder: is it one of those games like Journey where it's very difficult to experience it for the first time again?
Think about it this way: do you want to clean your house twice?
I do constantly. I fucking hate it.
There you go. So if you go for it again, use the accessibility settings.
There you go.
So my other game that I'll talk about very briefly, Cyberpunk 2077, Platinum 150. That's a great fucking game. That's a great game. And the only reason I really want to go into it very quickly, we've had this conversation before, but I want to hear your thoughts again because I have now I've gotten the Platinum twice, 3 full playthroughs, close to 300 hours, but I don't know that I would put it in my top games of all time. But it has to be in my top games of all time. That's a single player game that I played for 300 hours.
Okay, paint me a little bit of a picture as to why your gut intuition tells you that it wouldn't be in your top games of all time. Like, what is it about the game? Do you think you can pinpoint it, or is it just a feeling?
It's just a feeling of, I wouldn't put this here, but I feel like it has to be there. You know? It's like
So why?
Astrobot has to be nominated for Game of the Year, but it's not Game of the Year, you know. But I don't. You spent 300 hours with something, you have to like it a lot.
Yeah, but top games of all time, I was talking about vagueness a second ago. The problem with that is that that's all up to the eye of the beholder. And you can play something for 400 hours that you think is just pretty good. And then you can play 5 hours of something and go, this is fucking incredible. It's in my mind, without even having to actually make the comparison, it edges out this game I've spent 400 hours on. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's
well, because like I get your gut feeling, right? I put so many hundreds of hours into Conan with Donovan that it feels crazy not to say, like, that year I was like, it feels almost insane to not say that my game of the year was Conan because I played it for months on end. But at the same time, even though I put that many hours into Conan, that's not a top game of all time for me. There are great memories that I have with it, and I'll remember them forever. But it's not going to break into my top 10 list. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think so. The reason that this is tripping me up is because this is a single player game.
Sure, right? You're right. Conan's co-op. There's, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. If you told me like I played so much co-op and loved playing Conan because I was spending time with Donovan or whoever the fuck you're playing with, I think that's a different thing than I spent 300 hours staring at the same doing the same shit 3 times.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. But play Cyberpunk. It's fucking awesome. I got all the endings. It was not glitched. This is the one thing that pisses me off. Hate this. So I had been saying in our Discord that I thought the trophies were glitched again because I'd done all the side quests and I'd done all the NCPD stuff that was on my map. And I'm like running around looking. There's nothing there, and I'm not getting my trophies. And then I go through the map, and it has filters. So I go through those, and then I click into another screen and go into those, and that's where it's like only select NCPD jobs. And then fucking over 100 popped up on my map, and I'm like, "Are we joking right now?" So that was not cool, but.
That's rough design. I almost wonder if this was like a situation where somehow you hid them and didn't know that you hid them.
No,
because it seems crazy to me that they're already hidden. But I don't know.
I had it on the dynamic setting that it sets for you, and just some of them popped up. That's what was confusing. Some of them were there, but a lot of them were not. So anyway,
yeah,
that's Cyberpunk.
Let us know. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments below. If you're listening and you have us on Discord, which you can join by clicking the link in the description below, or if you follow us on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Triangle SQRD, I would love to hear basically your own answer to Chris's question. What is it for you that qualifies a game to be in your top 10? Do you think Chris is crazy for having the intuition that this game that he clearly... it almost seems like you're guilty for feeling like it's not going to be in your top 10, despite the fact
I just feel like something that I willingly and happily spent that much time playing has to be there. But I don't think if you asked me what my top 10 games were, I don't think it would beat out Red Dead, Witcher, Persona, Fallout 3. I don't think it would beat any of those games. So I don't really know where to put it. It's a weird thing for me. But my last 2 games. Let's go with Marvel Rivals. I don't have a ton to say on that, really. It's really good. I'm having a lot of fun. Brett, you should never play it. Anyone else who wants to play with me, hit me up on Discord. I'm down to play. I'm playing a lot of Cloak and Dagger. She's really fun. She's cool. Her design is really dope because she heals, but then if you hit R1, you switch to a different character and he does damage. And I think it's a really cool setup. So Marvel Rivals, the art style, design, sick. This is the thing. Oh my God, I'm going to go on a diatribe. This game proves to me that if Concord had any amount of effort put into the art, it would have been successful. Because this game is not better than Overwatch, but I like it better than Overwatch. And honestly, mechanically, I don't even know if I would say it's better than Concord. But I tell you what, I'm playing this, and I will literally never play Concord again. Not even by choice. So,
well, here's a couple of things there, right? Concord's a new IP. Marvel Rivals is leaning on a very beloved IP. You have built so much love for Marvel across both your love for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then I think that's only been expanded by your love for Marvel Snap, which gives you a feeling to where you're able to kind of cash in some of that love from the MCU and then start gaining new love for new characters and new variations. And then you're seeing that kind of come to light here too, where you're like, oh, sweet, I love this character and that. I'm going to see this sick art design. Oh, and now there's something cool. I think there's something really difficult about a game like Concord. And I know Overwatch was the same thing, so I'm not saying it's impossible. It is very difficult for a game like that to come this late in the boom of an industry and not be tethered to an IP that people already know, because for whatever reason, people are so much more willing to easily hop into an IP that they know something about, even if the product is mediocre. I am by no means saying this product is mediocre, but somehow all licensed things, good or bad, do okay for a little bit strictly because of the IP. Whereas Concord's so bad that because of zero IP recognition, and it doesn't help that they're not doing anything to make people want to come see their new IP, the game literally flounders day one. You get what I'm saying? Like it's insane. So, but go ahead.
No, I mean, you're not wrong. I think the only thing that I would say, because I can't say that you're wrong, because all of the things you said about me are true. But what I will say is that two of my friends who don't have cachet with the Marvel Cinematic Universe or with Marvel in general, to the point where one of them was like, who the fuck is Iron Man? You know?
Okay.
We're both really enjoying the game. So
that's great. Yeah.
You're right about me. They're enjoying the game for the game. So take that for what you will.
Okay, but did they hop in and play because you were playing it, or because friends were playing it?
It's a multiplayer game. That's a loaded question. Seemed to trick me up, but does not really matter.
If they didn't have, what I'm saying is, if they didn't have any other friends that were playing this game, do you think that they would have ended up getting it?
I don't know.
I know it's free, but you know.
Again, that's a weird question because I don't know if I would play a lot of this game if I didn't have friends. My point
carries back over in saying that your interest in the game started because of your love for Marvel. And so if your friend buys it because he's interested in or if your friend downloads it and invests time because they're interested in playing with you, that is by proxy because of the IP. And I think that we saw how bad that happened with Concord, because not enough people bought it to be able to give hey, I see that you're interested in Concord, I'm also going to buy it. Because Chris, you did this. You had me hop in and play Concord, and I did it. They didn't get a sell from me, but they at least got an active player.
Let me put this out there,
which they needed woefully.
I wanted you to play Concord because you host a PlayStation podcast, and you should have at least tried it.
I always intended to.
I know, but I'm
glad you made me, because I would have literally just not had the chance.
What I mean by that is that I didn't ask you to play Concord because I'm like, Brett's going to like this. We need to play it together. I was like, this is going to die and he needs to have experienced it. So I'm going to force him to do it now. I don't know necessarily. I mean, they downloaded it because I asked them to, but I don't think they would have bought it if it was free. And I know that they wouldn't have grinded last night without me to get to level for ranked if they didn't like the game. So
yeah, for sure.
I don't know how
I don't mean that. I'm just saying, again, IP is a gateway into it, even by proxy. I think a good way to view
the real thing is that Grums is right, and every woman in this game is hot and has the cartoonishly fat ass, and it's super good. So listen, maybe he's got a point.
When I realized that about 70% of my friends who play games play as female characters in any game where you can character create, I realized the importance of fuckable characters. I'm not even saying that I agree, because I think Abby is a fantastically written character and she is so unfuckable. It's insane. And yet they had the nerve to show me her getting fucked.
Here's the thing. Being, I don't know that I agree with you.
You'd plow it, smash or pass. Chris, Abby.
Right. This is the apocalypse.
If She-Hulk comes knocking, actually, She-Hulk's a bad example. She-Hulk's kind of fine the way they, you know what I'm saying? They clearly make her look better. No, But Abby's a well-written character, is my point.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Also fuckable. But no, I mean, and that's the sad reality in just like Hollywood and everything, right? Is like you'll see like in a book, this character is supposed to be ugly, and it's like it's Sydney Sweeney with glasses. You know?
Yeah.
And it's because nobody wants to watch or play on attractive people. That's
Well,
what
man, at the end of the
and
day,
women.
that at the end of the day, that's the problem. Is I know people, and I don't even completely disagree. I know that some people view it and they go, "Man, isn't it really unfortunate that that's all people have interest in putting out there?" Yeah, that is unfortunate. But the reason it's unfortunate is because the reason that's all people put out there or want to put out there is because the market reacts to it. That is not the fault of the media any longer. The media is just pumping in the thing that people want, which is kind of digging into my own thing of people want games as a service game. So as much as I may not want them, the market is trying to serve the masses as it be. So in the same sense as I'll complain some, but I gotta just realize that I'm no longer in the mass market in the same way as I was. That's exactly what's happening here. If you don't care if a lead character or any character in anything is attractive, that's great. You're just not part of the mass market anymore. And that's the situation. Now, what will be curious is to see if as the generations go on and the people who are currently 20s to 30s and say, I don't care if they're attractive, will that trend continue to carry? And will 30 years from now, very attractive main characters not be a thing anymore? That'll be interesting to see. But I think what's going on is people want to see that change in a single generation, and that's just not going to happen because generations continue to live on until they are no longer in a market. So all that to say, you're not wrong.
From the prehistoric era, men have been trying to have sex with the hottest cave woman. It's not going to fucking change. I don't care how old people get. That's the point. That's like I was saying, like the person who's portrayed as ugly, it's always like that's not an ugly person because you can't really do that in Hollywood. Go ahead. And there's nothing more to say about it. It's just like people at a base level want to see that, and then whatever else is whatever else. I know Blake, like we talk about before, he doesn't give a shit. Good for you. I don't give a shit either, but I can tell you what, I like Cloak and Dagger a lot more because she's super hot and got a fat ass. But that's just video games, baby. Like that's just our fantasies don't need to be real. Sydney Sweeney is not over there, so.
All right, Chris. Look, we're 37 minutes into the episode. Let's wrap up Thaumaturge real quick, because I'm super interested to hear what your take on Thaumaturge is, because hearing any game that kind of comes and flies off the wall and suddenly onto your radar, and then you hop into it, you are the king of buy a game that you never intend to play. And most of the time you just genuinely don't play them. So I told you it was a big hit that you messaged me and said, not only does it seem up your alley, I intended to never play it at all, and suddenly I was 3 hours deep. What I'm curious about is, did that excitement around it carry? Have you gone back to it and felt that kick and that urge again to be like, oh yeah, I'm wanting to play more? And can you kind of give an idea of what the game is, what it's about, how it functions?
Yeah. So it's a Disco Elysium style RPG. Okay. Not in terms of there's no combat, in terms of like the camera style. I think that isometric would be the word.
Yeah.
Like a top-down third-person thing. So you play this story of a Thaumaturge, and that's like he's like, I think I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm early. I'm like halfway through. Act 1. But from what I understand, this is a guy who can see into see demons, can see ghosts, he can read emotions. So a lot of the stuff you're doing is like you're looking for certain things that light up through your Thaumaturge magic, and then you're using those discoveries to unlock dialogue options with people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I thought, I was playing it, and I thought of you immediately, was like it gave me Banishers vibes in a way that I like more. but the story was kind of the same, right? And then this has turn-based, persona-ish combat. That's really cool. So you can use, I believe it's a solder, but you can basically take out these mini bosses and then you can use those mini bosses like personas. But you have them at all times. So like what's cool is right now I have like this demon who uses a sword and I attack, but then the demon attacks. So you can kind of build your character that way and use, there was this fight that I was getting my ass kicked on. And then I just realized that if I changed some of my perks in the back end, my demon would restore my health. So nice. I could go full on, punching these dudes in the face, but the demon would also hit them for like 4 damage, but I'd heal for 11. So that's kind of the interplay of it. I want to caution before anyone goes out and buys this and is disappointed. This is a janky game. But it's janky in a way that like I really appreciate. Like kind of how I had one moment where like the character, like his face was all fucked up, but not in like a bad way, in a ugly on the PS5 but passable on the PS3 kind of way. And we've talked about before how like that's kind of appealing, that like old style of like almost like you don't have to question if this is a video game, right? Like there's moments in Horizon where like you could put it on the screen and tell someone you're watching a movie and they might believe you, right? If you're playing Thaumaturge, you're playing a fucking video game and everybody knows it. But it's great. I was laughing because we were talking in the beginning of the show that I started watching The Sopranos for the first time. And this game takes place in Russia. And I believe it's Warsaw. Some of the point is the person I was talking to is supposed to be Russian, and my character Victor, spelled with a W, is talking with like what I imagine is at least for me a believable accent. I don't know if it's accurate, but it's believable. But then the woman who he's talking to literally sounded like a fucking character out of The Sopranos, and I was like, this is not right. But it was charming, like it was one of those things where I'm like, it's not going to blow you away. This is not the most technically impressive game I've ever seen. This is not the best voice acted game I've ever seen. This is not the best graphics I've ever seen, but the story got me super interested. The way that you can kind of change the dialogue trees. So like you can do this thing where I don't know what the mechanic does yet, but you can select certain answers that feed into your pride. And then that's a thing that builds up throughout the game. And I'm assuming by the end it will blow up in my face or something like that. But like that changes, like it has the telltale, like this person will remember that you were an asshole. I was getting they were reading your father's will, and then they read the stuff about you, and then you just go, okay, I'm going to go. Like in the middle of this will reading. I'm like, this is good shit. The character that you hang out with is Rasputin, like that Rasputin.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
It was just, I don't know how to explain it because like more than any other game I've ever recommended to you, it was just a vibe I got that Brett will enjoy this. And I don't want you to play it yet because you've spent too much time playing turn-based games. But I hope when you're ready for that, this is the next one. Because I don't think it's very long. And I really, really do think that you will like this game. Probably more than me. This is a great way to go ahead and springboard directly off into Persona 5. Because what I think I have learned is there's a few things that I've slowly over time... and we had a 3-week gap between episodes here, so there's a little bit more to catch up on because I was also able to do quite a bit of catch up in the time period. So I've beat Persona 5's main story. I am able to do the royal content. I have started a very, very little bit of it and decided that I was very, very, very done with Persona. And that playing it any longer would only worsen the fact that the game in its final hours kind of wheeled its way into a lower position for me fairly quickly. And I think there's a lot of factors of that. I don't think that it's entirely the fault of the game.
I think it's a fault of my playing habits. The fact that I was playing this very long game over a very long window of time. I think if I could have found a way to take the same 140, 150 hours and condense that down into a 1 month period, I think that would have felt considerably different. But having this be a game that I started before the PS5 Pro came out, like considerably before the PS5 Pro came out, and then having me end it like a month more past I thought I'll have this beat before the Pro comes out. It's a good way. No, I don't know what went wrong. It didn't happen. But I'm going to tell you the experience of the way I chose to play it. And I think I saw the worst side of my playing habits where I hyper focus on something because it's all I'm trying to play. I'm trying to beat it. I'm trying to go through this. I'm not wanting to water it down and play something else. I'm wanting to carry through. I don't think that was the right call. Nope. By the time the game was over, or going towards the end, the last two essentially palaces, one's actually a palace, one's for all intents and purposes a palace. I was hiding and moving forward in the shadows, and if I would fuck up and have to fight anything, I was just fucking furious. I mean, like, I'd fight it, but I was just like, I want this game to be over. I am done. I don't care. I'm done. And now there's a couple of things come into that, and I don't want to take too much of the show up with this, but Chris let me in on the fact that there was a twist. The twist was so obvious to me from really early in the game, and to the point where early on I was like, there's no way. And so I convinced myself they weren't going to do it, and then slowly was like, they're definitely going to do it. And then basically, it's just funny. This is a good story. There's a text message that Chris sent me after he knew for sure that I had seen the reveal, where he texted our buddy Sean and said, hey, I'm playing Grounded with Brett, talking about Persona 5. He seems to not know about this. And within like a minute, basically, Chris just texts back in large caps, never mind, laughed my fucking ass off. And Sean's response was, he laid it out better than I could have, because I essentially perfectly.
I do want to be abundantly clear. This is good information. That's not the twist I was talking about.
Well, you know what? I'm glad, because that was so fucking obvious.
Yeah, that's not even like a fucking hidden twist. That's kind of blatantly obvious once you play the game.
Well, it's blatantly obvious from the moment that you meet this character, to the point where I got asked from somebody how I felt about the reveal scene in the game where it lets you know how everybody knew. And I was like, I heard that shit immediately. And I thought, how the fuck did I hear that? Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. The game is, and this is another thing, the game is so fucking long, and they take so long to get anywhere with that I had honestly forgot that even happened. So when they brought it back up, I was like, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So like, I think this is supposed to be a big like Ocean's 11 reveal moment, and I'm just like, meh.
I don't think that was, to me, a big twist. I think the big twist happens when you're sitting down. No, when you're sitting down at a table. That to me was my what the fuck just happened moment.
Oh yeah.
I can't say it.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
I
got you.
I refuse to believe that you saw it. I don't even want
no,
you to say
No. I'm not saying I saw that. I'm not saying I predicted that. Though I did. Okay, let me back up. I did almost immediately. I can't say too much.
Yeah, you can't.
It shocked me, but almost immediately I was like, oh, obviously.
Yeah,
this is what's happening.
It was just the moment of what the fuck just happened. Did they really just do that and go, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But like, it was just that moment of what the fuck?
Yeah, for sure. But to kind of start to wrap that up, I don't think it helps that I was able to guess some of the biggest like reveals of the game, and they just seemed painfully obvious for a long time. I think that the amount of time that it happened across was just not a good setup for me. And I think I've learned one more lesson, and I want to be very clear that nothing I'm about to say is because I'm strictly actually trying to say that this is true of Persona 5. This is the way you should view it. But I think I've learned that I need to be very careful about going into games in accidental mindsets. So here's the thing. Chris, for whatever reason, is not a very big lover of Nier Automata. That in and of itself is not a big deal. But I think what was going on is that when we talk about Nier Automata, and I talk about why I think it's good and all those things, and how it's one of my favorite JRPGs, it's almost like, and this is probably more of the way I'm taking it, but you would almost be like, no, bro, Persona 5. And whenever I look at that, regardless of whether I really went into it with the intention, the reality is that as the game droned onward and onward and onward, it became very difficult for me to not compare the games in my mind. And so when I'm looking at the game unfairly in this particular way, I'm playing it and I'm like, okay, this game's really inefficient with its time. And
why would you compare an action game to a JRPG? Nier Automata is not a JRPG. I don't even want to hear that shit.
And we're going exactly to my point of it. So I messaged Donovan and I told him I beat the game, and I told him that I think Nier Automata is a much better game for a lot of reasons. But I even said in there that what's obvious to me is that Persona is more of an RPG. It is an RPG. And while I think Nier it's an action RPG, and they stand in very different ways. They always have. So I am, again, that's the thing, is like everything I look at in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, the story is more compelling to me. Again, more interesting, more compelling. The twists are harder to see coming in Nier Automata versus Persona. I think that the characters are far more interesting and more in depth in Nier Automata to me than they are in Persona. And I think that their character development's a lot more interesting. And I think in Persona, the way I kind of view it is that I've learned a lot about where my JRPG habits have driven down throughout the years. Is really what I'm getting at. Is that Persona is through and through a classic RPG that is really long, and in many ways, it's about this sounds bad, and I really don't mean it bad. It's about the feeling of scope without the actual depth of anything. And what I mean by that is that no single social link in Persona 5 is truly very interesting. If you really go through everything that's happening, they're pretty shallow.
Yeah, and I just think you should have taken breaks, because everything you're saying sounds, with all due respect, fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like borderline, I don't believe you. Like, genuinely. I'm not even saying it because I love Persona. Like, half the shit you're saying, I'm like, you're just wrong. But again, it's your opinion, but you should have listened to me the multiple times I told you to stop playing Persona 5.
Oh, I probably should have.
I told you at least once a week, you need to stop playing Persona 5 and play something else. And you're like, no. I'm like, okay, but you're going to fuck this up for yourself. Look at what happened. You fucked this up for yourself. You should have stopped playing Persona 5 for like a week.
Well, no, here's the difference though. I don't think Persona 5 is an awful game. I think my experience with it was a little rough because of my own habits. But I think at the end of the day, the way I feel about the game, and this is what I said to them, I'm glad I played it. I can understand why people have a lot of hype around the series. I can see why people love the game, but I also see a lot of things where whenever I'm looking at it, I'm like, this feels like one of those things where if this is one of your earlier JRPGs, this is going to be like a foundational game for you. And it doesn't matter what, for me, I've played too many JRPGs for this to be foundational for me. So I don't view it in the same light as someone like, I think even for fair example, I think Persona 5 was one of the, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but from our conversations, I think Persona 5 was one of the first JRPGs that you really clung on to and beat.
Finished for sure.
Yeah. And so I think that goes towards a lot of painting the way that you look at JRPGs. And it will, because the same thing happened to me. I think if you go back in the day and I think about games that I beat, Final Fantasy VIII was like my go-to, because I beat it before 7 or 9 or anything else. And so Final Fantasy VIII was like my reference point for RPGs for a long time. And then Kingdom Hearts kind of became my reference point for JRPGs and my clear, like, okay, I like action more because the games are a little bit more about staying at a pace and using the time a little bit, for lack of a better term, and what I'm trying to say, being a little more efficient with the time. And I say that because Kingdom Hearts is 24 hours. You know, it's a 24-hour game to beat. And I love that. I think it's a great thing about it. And to that point, like, you know, one of the things that's happening in Persona is a bunch of kids, you know, basically fighting adults, which is a common JRPG trope, not a problem in and of itself. But it's a little harder to stay soft-hearted or whatever you want to say. I wasn't just rolling my eyes, but is a little harder not to laugh off the super goody two shoes. Everything's going to be great, and we're good, pure characters, because it happened over such a long number of hours. And I'm like, Kingdom Hearts is, and it's funny because I was talking to myself too. I was like, Kingdom Hearts is exactly this. It's just a lot shorter. And so it doesn't wear on me in the same way. So yeah, it's interesting. And I'm very curious to see if after a long break, coming back to Royals content, playing Royal, playing the game with kind of for all intents and purposes, a new set of eyes, if it'll change my opinion on the game as a whole. But I think it's a good game. I'm not saying it's not a good game. And I don't think that I played it in the ideal way to let the game shine.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not going to argue about it. It's just interesting listening to you, because I think even like I have to feel like some of your interpretations are even colored by it, because like I strongly disagree that the characters are portrayed as goody two shoes, perfect people like you were saying they are. I think half the point is that they're not.
I want to back it up and actually say that what it is the happy-go-lucky, like in the face of everything being so pure and like we're going to do the right thing, and that's again a JRPG trope. Games do this all the time. It's just really hard for it to not. It's really hard to not have the way I view that dialogue change over the course of 100. Again, mine was a slightly longer playthrough as well. Probably could have followed a guide and cut down a little bit, but not much.
How long did it take you to play?
Like 140 hours for the main story.
You spent far too much time playing Persona 5.
Yeah,
you should
100%.
But I don't even know how you spent that much time.
I don't know. Well, here's the thing. At least, and I think if I'm being real, I think 10 hours total of that runtime is the game being on and running while I'm going to the bathroom or doing something for my wife, or it's sitting for 20 or 30 minutes while I'm doing something else and then coming back to it.
Well, that's my point, is that you should have been able to, again, this is just how you play, whatever, you play longer.
Sure.
You should have been done with Royal at 120 hours.
Yeah, I wasn't even in the final palace at 120 hours.
Yeah, I don't know how you pulled that up. That's why you don't like it. You spent far too much. Well, I know, you know what I mean. I don't mean that you don't like it, but you spent far too much time playing it.
You know what I'm happy to hear though, Chris, is that hearing my thoughts on a game that you loved and wanted me to play, it feels your reaction is very reminiscent of my reaction to your thoughts on Nier Automata. And I'm being, I think, far more generous to Persona 5. Generous feels like wrong. I think I liked Persona 5 more than you liked Nier Automata.
But I've always said that the only thing that I don't like about Nier Automata, actually the reason I don't like Nier Automata, is because I think it sucks to play. And I don't think Persona 5 sucks to play.
That is insane. Because this is where we go into the thing. Persona 5's combat is not in-depth enough to stay engaging for long periods of time. And that's the thing I miss the most, is like I'm just sitting here playing the game and I'm like, God, this game sucks to play. I do not want to be in combat right now. Even the fucking final boss didn't die at all. And I was just like, I don't give a shit. It's just, it was hard. And I was already in a bad spot for the game. A lot of things didn't help to come towards this. And here's the other thing. Persona's a lot like Pokemon, and I've gotten more and more disillusioned with Pokemon. It's just adult Pokemon. It's all it's really trying to be in terms of actual primary combat mechanics.
So the 30th anniversary PlayStation update.
So the other two games, since I'm finally free from the shackles of that.
I'm glad you played it, though. I'm glad.
Yeah, there we go. Look, I think after I've had some more time to reflect on it, we can have this conversation. But I'm sure you're not the only person hearing me say that and being like, what the fuck?
I'd be interested to hear what the audience thinks about your take. People like Josh who love it. Because there are things you said that I think are genuinely straight up wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about opinion stuff. I'm talking about like stuff you've said about the story where I'm like, that is just not true. But maybe I'm crazy.
All of that's opinion, Chris. What are you talking about?
No. Everything you just said about the characters, I think is straight up wrong.
No, that's clearly opinion. I don't think that those social links do much to actually move the characters forward. It does move them forward, but to what? To what?
I'm just literally just talking about you're like, oh, it's all happy-go-lucky. I think that's like actively wrong. But that's again we can go personal opinion.
I think it comes down to the way we're saying. Clearly all of the characters had something going on and come into it, but the point of the Phantom Thieves are to be we're doing the good for everybody. And I know the game talks about that too. The same thing happens in Kingdom Hearts. I'm clearly simplifying to try and get a point across. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's played it there, but I'll tell you this much. This is the crazy thing. For anybody who loves this game, I'm so glad you love it. For anybody who's played this game more than once, I'm so glad you played this game more than once. After I started the game, Josh started playing it and platinumed it before I even got close to beating it. I can say with certainty that while I very well may come back and play the Persona Royal content, I will never replay this game. Ever. Ever. I need one more just to get my point across. Ever.
Hey, man.
So that doesn't make anybody right or wrong. I'm also the person who's played the Order 1886 fucking 5 times. Do with this information what you will. I'm just telling you my experience and what I feel from it. So, me and the wife, and I didn't think she would. I started playing Lego Horizon Adventures, and after the thing, I was like, you can play if you want. And me and my wife have just been playing that game together. It's really fun. It's pretty well polished, not a whole lot of issues. It's more in-depth than every Lego game that I have played, but it's still not a super in-depth game or really long. It's funny, quirky, good sense of humor. Brings a lot of the ideas from Horizon forward into Lego. And I'm really pretty impressed with what they did with it. I don't think it's like a 10 out of 10 anything. I think it's probably, I think it got around a 7 out of 10 seems like a perfect score for this game. Yeah. It's fun and it's short and it really wasn't that expensive, so I'm happy to have it. And then Life is Strange Double Exposure, which brings the story back to the life of Max, which is the character from the first game. And I was kind of apprehensive on them coming back to her because I didn't know how they were going to be able to handle that and that they might undo some of the stuff I loved about the first game, and I'm glad that there's a considerable jump in time between the games. Max has aged quite a bit, and they're being pretty interesting in how they choose to include parts and information. And clearly playing the first game or having knowledge of the first game is important, but not absolutely necessary. The game gives you all the context that you need in order to understand it. But I'm very much enjoying it. And its little, the double exposure name, of course, they always come into their thing where the games have always got some kind of gimmick. And the gimmick for this one is that you can move between 2 different worlds, ergo double exposure. But what's pretty cool about it is this is clearly not the first game to do this, but where this game, and I know its limitations, and the game tries to play it off as like, well, no one can see you're doing it. So you've got to find areas where you can shift to the other world. And there's times where I'm like, it kind of sucks to run somewhere, go do some, or really be somewhere, run, shift, run back, talk to somebody, run back to the same area where you had to shift again so you can run back and talk to them again. I'm like, this is like almost the worst form of backtracking, but I know it's just a limitation of how they can handle it. I just think it would be really cool, but also completely break the story if you could just, as you're walking around, be like, and I'm in the other world. But it's like no game ever does that. You know, I thought, what was the game from Bloober, Chris, that we played, The Medium? I thought, okay, maybe this will be where we get to see this kind of cool ability. Now, no game ever fully dedicates to having a full game that lets you move between stuff. But the moments in games that do, like Titanfall, that little section in Titanfall 2, and Dishonored 2, both pretty cool. So,
hell yeah.
Chasing that dream forever. So, yeah, that's it, man. Now that I've ruined your mood, we can go into talking about the 30th anniversary of PlayStation by pointing out for anybody who may have been under a rock. Sony kind of started this off with a surprise system update for PS5 where you could, once you did it, it reboots the PlayStation and you hear the old classic PS1 Sony big golden diamond, come up and warm, which is very cool. And then you get to choose a theme, which is based off of either the 30th anniversary or PS1, 2, 3, or 4, where it kind of gives you like a somewhat overlay that and adds some sound stuff that sounds like the consoles of its time, which is a really cool touch. I would have loved to see them do something a little more dynamic, like if you had PS3, that it would actually add the little waving motions and stuff. But for what it is, it's pretty cool. And I've seen a lot of people saying they hope it sticks around. I do too. I think this is a neat way to throw this out there, and then just also after this, get rid of the 30th anniversary thing, but just tuck it away inside of a theme, because why not? It's cool. But we thought with 30th anniversary coming around, Chris and I have different things. So now it's time to go ahead and hop into kind of talking about some of our favorite PlayStation memories, what got us into the console. Now, if you've been listening to this show a long time, you know, from me and from Saul and at various points, Chris, we've talked about different memories for PlayStation, but it's been a while, so this is a good way to hop in and maybe even say some new ones that people didn't know about. So, Chris, I've talked for a bit now. I'm going to throw it over to you. Kind of walk us through your beginning of being like, okay, shit, PlayStation's kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay, so while I'm talking, check your Discord. So in terms of like early consoles, like my biggest experience was like seeing, I think the first thing I remember really about the PlayStation is like on PS2 going to my cousin's house to watch them play Grand Theft Auto 3 and being really mad that like I wasn't allowed to play it at home. And it's funny because it goes back to like my first console. My first console was a original Xbox. And I remember, this may be the first thing I ever knew about exclusives, is I remember being upset that my grandfather, I don't feel bad about saying this because he's dead and a piece of shit, but
you heard it here first, people.
Don't tell my mom. I think she'd be upset even though it's clearly true. But I remember being upset with him because he bought me an Xbox instead of a PlayStation. And at the time, the Grand Theft Auto trilogy was exclusive to the PlayStation 2. And that was the only reason in my mind that I ever wanted a video game console was for that. So that my biggest memory is that, but a lot of like the young stuff was like getting SSX Tricky for Xbox for Christmas. The only time my parents have ever bought me video games for a holiday or anything like that was that Christmas. And they bought like fucking 40 games. It was insane. Never did it again.
That's a lot. I mean, it's really cool.
I don't know how they pulled that off, but I probably like that was at the time where Walmart had the bargain bin of just, oh, here's a $5 NCAA 2006 for the wrong console, but here you go. So that's my biggest memory with like that generation. But other than that, it was, I think I've told the story before about how I got into the PS3 because I had originally gotten an Xbox. I had originally got an Xbox 360, and then.
Well, okay, so let's take a pause. So I'm assuming, but let's walk back because gaming's a lot different now than it was. So whereas now I think it makes more sense to go, well, I have a PlayStation Network account, I have trophies, I have a digital library, ergo I'm moving forward. That wasn't necessarily the case for Xbox. Xbox also was kind of the underdog that generation. They did not necessarily perform super well the generation against PS2. So what was it that got you into going to the Xbox 360? Was it just the inertia of your parents being like, he had an Xbox, therefore Xbox 360? Was that your thing? Or what led you to getting an Xbox before you even ended up going the PlayStation route?
I don't think my parents got it for me. I think that was one of those things that like I got when I was working for the first time. So I had bought the 360. And that was in the time where like I would just trade in and, I don't have that OG Xbox. I probably gave it to GameStop for $20, but that's how I got my 360. And then the big thing with the 360 was just, that was like the heyday of playing video games with my friends. It's like now we do, but like that was a time where like people I hadn't even heard of in my school were like, oh, let's play. You want to play Modern Warfare 2? We got a full squad, like that kind of shit. So honestly, the only reason I broke off from the 360 was just how good Killzone 2 looked.
What a game.
That was what sold me.
And don't get me wrong. I think everyone would be lying. I thought Killzone 2, when I saw it in the thing, I was like, bro, what? And so, of course, my excitement, if I'm being real with myself, what led me to wanting to get it and experience it was just games can't look like that.
Yeah.
So I've got to see this. And then, because I really wasn't that big of a shooter fan, like I'd played a few prior to that, but I wasn't like hugely into them. And I got Killzone, and I was like, this is what shooters have been missing. and again, so this goes towards like what we're talking about with Persona, where I think the first shooter I got super into was Resistance. Fall of Man, but again, that was pretty early days. I had played Modern Warfare on 360 before I even got a PS3, or no, I had a PS3 at that time. But my friend let me borrow it for 360 from church. So I played it on our 360. So all of that kind of went around, but then Killzone came out, and I was like, I'm normally playing like RPGs and shit, but this looks incredible. I've got to experience this. And then I was like, whoa, this feels way different. I like this a whole lot because it is. Whether you love it or hate it, it's hard to deny that Killzone feels vastly different from any other shooter.
Agreed.
And so for me, it became this thing where while it was probably slightly impure thoughts that led me to Killzone 2 in terms of, just because it looks as good and I want to gas out on how good it looks, I stayed for how good the game was. So, but continue.
Yeah. So, no, that was just, I think I've told the story before, but like I had played Killzone 2 at a buddy's house, had a literal dream about it, and then sold my 360 to GameStop and bought a PS3. And that was kind of where it went from there. You know, I was a little bit of an achievement guy, not to the same degree, but like getting those platinum trophies is really what kind of set me off to where we are now.
What was your first platinum? Because I know that your first account was banned, and I would love to hear the story as to how the fuck that happened.
It wasn't banned.
Oh, you just misplaced your
I just lost
stuff.
it.
Okay. I'm thinking of someone else because I was like, if it got banned, I've still yet to see that happen with anybody I actually know. So,
no, yeah, because I can still see the profile, which is honestly the most depressing part. Is I can like go look at it. But my first platinum on that account was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on June 9th, 2010. Oh God, that's so fucking long ago.
I think I beat you out with my first platinum because my first platinum was Infamous.
Nice.
And I'm pretty sure I got that in 2009.
Oh, really?
The game came out in 2009, and I think I played it not super long after after that. So now I'm actually kind of curious. But
you know what's crazy is I have almost all the trophies in Naughty Bear on this account.
Damn.
That sucks. There's some good platinums on that account. I think it's I have, let's see, hold on a second. So it's Trine, Arkham Asylum, Battlefield Bad Company 2, Assassin's Creed 2, Fallout 3, God of War 3, Uncharted 2, Godfather 2, fantastic game, Modern Warfare 2.
It's not bad.
From then,
not bad at all.
I'm kind of just giving a life story at this point, but in terms of before it really switched over to just being mostly strictly PlayStation, I had bought an Xbox One for the opposite reason everybody buys a console. All of my friends pre-ordered PS5s, 4s, so I'm like, I'm going to be the different one. Let's see what the Xbox is like. And I bought that. Now, this was before crossplay. This was before any of that. So I just bought the worst console I could have at the time. Yeah, that's kind of the whole, really my biggest memories about it.
Well, there you have it, man. Yeah, it's interesting to hear. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense because coming over to Killzone, that being 2009, also, damn. Yeah, in 2009, Killzone literally was like an anomaly graphically.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, gameplay-wise too, like physics-wise, games didn't do a lot of the stuff that game was like harping on. Like, hey, look, you can like move around enemies and make sure that you can use like their weight against them to like fuck them up. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's unheard of, but it wasn't always in the biggest of games. Damn, that's crazy. What a freaking game. But I guess I'm surprised that you were still kind of toying around with the idea of getting an Xbox that early in the gen. And I'm not saying, I think we've all said, like, I think every generation, I've owned every console of every generation within its generation at some point, or at least while the generation was still active enough to be called. Like, I was pretty late on the Xbox. I got an Xbox like a month after the 360 came out, or maybe it's a month before the 360 came out, because my friend was like, the 360's here, you can have this. And he gave me an Xbox with Fable 1. And I was like, what the hell is this Fable game? Played it. It was like, holy shit. So you kind of bounce around. And I remember 360. The first time I played a 360 was going over to a friend's house and seeing him play Condemned Criminal Origins and being like, oh shit, okay, it's kind of wild. So for you, what was it that got you? I mean, I guess you locked into PlayStation PS4 gen. Is that kind of just what happened?
Yeah, basically. I was going back and forth in the last gen. I would basically just go to GameStop, trade in my shit, buy another one. Go to GameStop, trade in my shit, buy another one.
Yeah, for sure. Damn. Okay. Well, one of the ones I go to all the time is like one of the first memories I ever mentioned on the show was we lived in a trailer house out in the country, and my parents were still together, not divorced. I was 4. I might have been 5, but I was 4 or 5, and my dad had Crash Bandicoot on the PS1, and my dad was always like we got the system after he was done with it and got the new one. So like my dad got the PS1 and we got the Sega Genesis, which is pretty sweet because it's like, cool, we have a dedicated console in our room, because my dad was just like, okay, here you go. You get the old console, I move forward. But he would let us play, and I played Crash Bandicoot with him, and we were of course poor, so getting the PlayStation was pretty impressive in and of itself, but my dad made sure that it happened. But we never had a memory card, so my dad's thing was like, we're gonna beat Crash Bandicoot without turning the PlayStation off. And so it became this like, every day I'm getting off the bus, I'm going home, my parents hate each other, but I don't know that yet. And
classic kid.
Yeah, and we're tearing up some Crash Bandicoot, going through each boss. And I remember the level that to this day still becomes like my fucking stopping point of like, it is so difficult, is a steep climb or whatever, where it's like the side of the mountain that Cortex is in, and the steps are all like constantly coming up and down, and it's just a fucking nightmare. It's one of the only like primarily 2D levels in the game, and it is brutally difficult. It's just a very difficult level, and we were just so stuck on that for so long. My dad finally beat it, and I remember we were taking turns in the phases of the final boss, and that was kind of my thing, where I was like, first of all, PlayStation fucks, this is amazing, this is so good, these games look way better than fucking Chuck Rock 2, Son of Chuck, and Booger Man. But also being like, okay, Crash Bandicoot's sick, one of the best games of all time, best game mascots of all time. And here's the thing, I am aware that my love for Crash Bandicoot, I do think they're good games, but I think that my ability to see them for exactly what games they are is very skewed by the fact that it's like gamers' first low memory. It's like, I remember games before Crash Bandicoot, but like pretty tangentially. Crash Bandicoot was like the first game where I was like, this is my shit. I'm here. Let's go. So I love that. But one of my other go-to favorites that I have, moving a little bit more in the future, well after my parents admitted that they hated each other and got divorced, we had moved into a house with my stepdad, not in the country, and basically my mom let it slip that she had gotten me a PSP, but not in so many words as I got you a PSP, but she basically strongly hinted at it on accident. And I was a trouble child. So a few years prior, when we still lived in the house in the country that was built in front of the trailer house, I had a tendency to try and sneak my Christmas presents that were games by opening them very carefully, taking the game out, usually Game Boy games, and putting the cartridge of whatever game I was through playing into the box and putting the new game into my Game Boy, because my mom didn't know what the fuck I was playing. So I took Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories after being so obsessed with Kingdom Hearts 1 when we rented it from Blockbuster. And I got Chain of Memories because I knew that she had bought it for me from when it was still Babbage's, before it was even GameStop. And weird tangent there, Babbage's was started by a dude from Texarkana. So in a weird way, GameStop started in Texarkana. There's your little weird trivia nugget for the episode. But my mom went and bought that for me, and I knew it. And so obviously it's the only Game Boy Advance box shape down in the tree. And so I stole that game out of it. And she walked in from work that day, and I'm playing my Christmas present on the couch beside her. And she's like, "Hey, what you doing?" I'm like, "I'll play my game." So that night before Christmas, and this just goes to show you how the excitement of youth. I couldn't play it. I didn't do anything. I just literally snuck my mom's keys from her bedroom to her car, popped her trunk, and in the middle of the night, I'm in our driveway, trunk open, taking the PSP out of the box, opening it, spinning around, being like, "Holy shit. What is this? This is insane." And having to try and like memorize my genuine reaction so that when I opened it the next morning, I was like, "Oh, Mom, you didn't." So yeah, that was a good time, and charging that up and opening it or playing it. And the game that I wanted her to get me, and she did get me, was it was Untold Legends: Brotherhood of the Blade, and it was like a third-person isometric dungeon crawler game, sort of Diablo-like. And I just loved it, man. What a game! What a system! PSP. So much of my PlayStation identity is tied up into the PSP years because it was once I figured out how to mod the PSP and could just actually start playing games when I was otherwise too poor to ever afford them, was great, because it's like people could be like, "Oh, did you play this?" And I'm like, "I played the PSP version." One of the games that comes to mind for that is Star Wars. This is the weird part. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Or not Revenge of the Sith. I'm sorry. Star Wars. The one with Star Killer. Why am I blanking on the name, Chris?
Holy shit. Force Awakens.
Yeah, Force Awakens. I played Force Awakens, one of the most talked about Star Wars games. I love that game, and the reason I love that game is I played the PSP version. Wasn't the PS3 or 360 version everyone raved and ranted about. And when I tried to play the PS3 one later that a friend let me borrow, I actually didn't like it as much as the PSP one, because they did weird shit with the camera. I remember like the first boss fight in the bar. I was like, "Oh, I don't like that this like shifted the camera all weird." So yeah, it was nice being able to like be part of the conversation, even at times where I couldn't be immediately on the money. But also it was cool being able to play Crisis Core before it came to America and being like, "I don't know what the fuck's happening. This is in Japanese, but fuck, this game's cool."
Zach.
So yeah, Zach. Like, I knew that name. So yeah, man, I remember the first time I got a platinum, I was like, "Why do PSPs not have trophies?"
Yeah.
And what a story to hear that they were very close to doing it, but they chose not to. It sucks.
Because it was so exploitable, right? That was the whole reason.
Basically, and they were like, "Why even worry about it on this system? We can just make it a key pillar of the next system we want to do." I want to bounce it over to you, Chris, because I know that you basically said that you went and traded in and got, but what was your first PlayStation console that you bought, or even if you didn't buy it, which was the first PlayStation console that you day one had? PS4?
Yeah, PS4. I don't know if it wasn't day one, but it was close to day one.
Okay. Because I'm trying to think, age-wise, you wouldn't have been in much of a position to buy one yourself, except for the PS4 or the Vita. And that's the thing, is like, I got the PSP pretty close. Again, not day one, but pretty close that Christmas that it came out. I got the PS3 the Christmas that it came out. I got the Vita was the first console where I was like, I have a job, I have money, I work at GameStop. I pre-ordered the early adopters, or the founders whatever edition, where it came with like I think it came with little deviants, and it came with the leather case that I still use. It's a zip-up case that I love, and you got the system a week early, and therefore stores had to have games out a week before the system launched. So people were walking in and be like, this looks cool, can I buy this? No. no, you cannot. But I mean, you could, but it was like, you can buy it, but unless you got a Vita a week early, there's no reason to buy it. So that was my first one that I was able to buy. But the first home console I was able to buy day one, and I pre-ordered it and got it day one, was PS4. I picked both of those up at their midnight release, which was exciting times, man. Did you ever go to midnight releases for games back in the day?
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. I used to go to a bunch of them.
Do you miss that part of gaming? Because it's just like online gaming made that pointless. Or I should say, downloadable games made that point.
Yeah, I mean, there was something to it. Like a lot of the friends that you've met in quotes, but I became better friends with him because he was at a Destiny 2 overnight, or Destiny 1. He was at the midnight launch for Destiny 1, and we ended up playing Destiny, and then here we are. So, well, I'm sliding. But the one I remember the most was Modern Warfare 2, because that was actually, there's two, but Modern Warfare 2 is the big one, because that was one where I went to GameStop at like 4 p.m, got a ticket, and then came back at midnight, walked in front of like 110 people. It was like, can I have my game? But I remember the memories of it because there were dudes. That was the crazy one, because there was dudes in ghillie suits. There were dudes with doing the most for fucking Call of Duty. It was really cool. But I have good memories of Skyrim's.
Skyrim was a cool one. Yeah.
But Skyrim for me was like a personal milestone more than really about the game. Because I remember I was working at Applebee's, and it was the first time where my paycheck was more than like $300. I had like $600. And I didn't know what Skyrim was. I'd never heard of it. I was not following gaming news this way. I was just like, well, this game comes out at midnight and I've got so much money, I'm fucking rich. So I pre-ordered and bought Skyrim at midnight, and that's okay. That. But
we gotta rewind a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
You're the man who loves Fallout 3, who loves Fallout 4.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first Bethesda game and when?
Fallout 3.
So even though you had played Fallout 3, is this like around its launch window, or was this
Dude, this was when I didn't know anything about games. The reason I bought Fallout 3 was because for my birthday I got a bunch of money, and the two games that had come out around my birthday were Gears of War 3 and Fallout 3, and I bought both of them.
Is it Gears 3 or Gears 2?
I'm not sure. It was a Gears game. It was one of those two games.
I'm feeling like Gears 2, but regardless, go ahead.
It was just one of those games on a shelf, and I was like, I have birthday money. I'm buying video games. I bought Fallout 3 and I bought Gears, expecting and not knowing what they were. Like, I didn't check, trailers, all that kind of stuff. I kind of game the same way I do now, to a little bit of a greater degree back then. But like even now, like I'm not gonna sit here and watch a bunch of trailers. I'm gonna watch the Game Awards, attach myself to one of those games, follow it for the rest of time, and then a review for one of the other games announced is going to come out, and that's when I'm going to realize I want to play it. That's what's going to put it back on my radar. I don't troll the PlayStation YouTube channel for the new reviews, or the new trailers.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It was the same thing back then, except I didn't have even the industry knowledge of oh, Bethesda makes this. It was like, I don't know what Fallout means, but the guy looks cool. But that was some stuff where I was listening to gaming podcasts. So one of the big reasons, we've talked about how I think it was last episode where I was like, I literally can't have a conversation about this because I was listening to Sacred Symbols. And you were talking about how you don't listen to video games, but I've been listening to Colin since then. I listened to his first appearance on Beyond. I've literally been there for his entire career. So that's one of those things where back then that became ingrained in me. And so a lot of the stuff I liked were oh, the guys on Beyond talked about it, or I want to try this because Colin really likes it.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, I don't fucking like Mega Man, but in a lot of ways, his taste is kind of what, I don't know how to really influence mine. So
yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Yeah, you find someone who ends up sticking with you. We didn't always have easy access to internet, so I didn't really get into podcasts for gaming until significantly later. Whenever I lived out on my own and could have constant internet and knew it wasn't going to go out. And then when I had mobile data so I could listen to things on my phone on the go, a lot of that came whenever I became an adult. And now, to be fair, I was already out on my own, living on my own senior year, which is when Skyrim came out. It came out after I'd graduated, to be fair. But I was already out on my own, and of course, I knew Bethesda because Morrowind was like my what's a Bethesda? And then be like, that's a Bethesda, and that just carried on. So it's just really interesting seeing how, and I get it. It's kind of interesting hearing what kind of led you to different things of gaming. So I think it may speak to why our gaming taste differ in the areas where they primarily tend to differ. And I think it's that you've always had much more of a thirst for multiplayer games than I have had. And hearing back, it's like you were clearly excited about Modern Warfare 2 for the multiplayer. I was excited about Modern Warfare 2 because I liked Modern Warfare 1's campaign and I wanted to play another campaign. I played Modern Warfare 2's campaign and then I literally gave it back to the friend that let me borrow it. I never played it online once, ever.
That's insane.
Yeah, and PS Plus was free, or you know what I mean. PS Online was free, so there was no reason. And I played Modern Warfare 2 on PlayStation. Friend let me borrow it. My buddy Eddie. So yeah, it's funny, but I think back to the fact that I was gaming really, really young. Multiplayer wasn't really a thing, and there was no way around it. If you were multiplayer in the '90s, it was PC. That's just kind of how it worked. And I remember early days, like my dad paying for a month of internet with a Dreamcast in order to be able to put the internet browser disk into the Dreamcast and hook up the keyboard and mouse peripheral so that we could hop on and be on the internet on the console and be like, this is crazy. And then that was it. We never did anything else. He didn't pay for internet again after that. But yeah, it's crazy because I do think that I'm just... It goes to show it's like my development period. When I think of multiplayer games, I think of MMOs because that's what I played in my big multiplayer period. There was a time on the PS3 where I was like super into Resistance 2 online, Killzone 3 specifically. I played so much online of both of those games. I played Killzone 2 online quite a bit, but it's funny because when I think about what I loved about Killzone 2, it's the campaign. The multiplayer is just, it's there. Now, when I think of Killzone 3, what I loved about it, the campaign and the multiplayer like side to side because I played both of them pretty equally. So it's crazy to think that through. And then you kind of move forward and see how it shifts because as I started getting older and having more of a job, it's like my priorities changed. By the time that Killzone Shadowfall came out, when I think of Shadowfall, I think of the campaign because while I tried the multiplayer, I tried like 2 rounds and I was like, yeah, okay. and that's it. Killzone is a franchise that I think about the story for. And I think it even speaks to our Call of Duty differences, right? Because you always kind of groan when I bring up the fact that I think one of the best Call of Duties is Infinite Warfare, which is like, I get that I understand for people who play the multiplayer part, that's like heresy. But Infinite Warfare doesn't even exist as an online game in my head. Infinite Warfare exists as a really fucking good campaign and a too difficult zombie mode because I was like, I'm getting the platinum in this game. And then I realized that the zombie mode I did not care enough about and it was really difficult and you basically had to beat the whole thing to get the platinum. And so I had beat Infinite Warfare like 4 different times on veteran. I was going through collecting all the guns and then being like, fuck, I can't get the platinum anyway. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I think whenever I bring up Infinite Warfare, everybody's like, oh, that game sucked. And I'm like, what about it sucked? And like, the multiplayer is this, multiplayer is that. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. There's multiplayer in that game.
Hey, man, good for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you coming up more on Xbox speaks to that too, because I think Xbox was like the multiplayer console, right? I mean, like, it's just kind of how it worked out. Oh,
it was the exclusive home of battle passes and map packs and all this kind of shit on Xbox until it became, taboo and slimy industry things. It was all the Xbox way of life was you play Call of Duty, you play it on Xbox because everything's coming there first.
Yeah, what was crazy how that even, like, I was talking to someone the other day, I was like, map packs were a thing. If you said map pack today, people would laugh you out of the room.
Yeah, and it's funny because like it is objectively better that they don't do it, but I'm surprised that they were willing to be like, no, we'll do it all for free. Because it does split your player base like significantly. So like you shouldn't do it.
No, it does. Yeah. But being like, hey, everybody can play every map, but instead we're going to, but it's weird because I feel more compelled to pay for a map in a multiplayer game than I do to pay for a skin because the skin doesn't change anything about the game to me. It's like, don't get me wrong, I like the skin. One of my favorite things about one of the only Call of Duties I did get super into the multiplayer for, which was Advanced Warfare, that I liked was Advanced Warfare had a really great customization system, and it made it to where it was like, oh, of course I want a prestige because you get exclusive prestige armor. Fuck yeah. I prestiged in Advanced Warfare like fucking 5 times. Because I was just like,
Jesus
hell yeah. Yes, I played the shit out of that game.
I've never even done that.
Me, Saw, and Blaze just kept going, and I'd prestige. I'm like, okay, what am I going to... And I was always the... what is the 3-round burst shot? The IGA or whatever?
I don't
IAG, something like that. There's a 3-round burst gun that's pretty much in every Call of Duty that was like my go-to gun. So whenever it came time to prestige and keep something in your prestige that you could carry over, I'd do everything. It was that gun, this attachment, this thing, and then this set of armor, and I just kept going through. Yeah, that was one of those games where I'd have to find a screenshot, but I've got a screenshot where I've got like a 45-2 kill like KD, which is sick.
Good God.
Yeah, that was like the only time in my life where Saul and Saul was really good. He was the best of us all. But, dude, also, I forget how much you don't know about Saul. When we were in high school, Saul was like a top tier Halo player. And when I say top tier, I don't mean like locally. I mean like a top tier Halo player.
Damn.
In tournaments and stuff. It's so weird to think about back then. He was really, really good. At one point in time, he was featured on the little screen for Halo 3 where they'd have like video clips of stuff. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, so Saul and we were talking about maybe trying to do like a tournament for Call of Duty. So we were like practicing and getting better and being like, how often can we have an insane KD? Like my average KD for those games would be like a 35-8, which is pretty good. So yeah, I miss those times. But it's funny because like I get so ingrained that's what I think about multiplayer. So when I play something like Apex with you, they're so big. The maps are not designed in a way to push certain styles of play in the same way that they used to. So it's hard to think through, man. It's really weird.
I can't compare to a top Halo player, but I did have the #1 score in all of the Batman Arkham Asylum maps on PS3 for at least some point of the time it was on the console.
Hey, for like a month, I was like second in the US for Resistance 2 had free for all, so is 1v8 or 1v whatever you want to say, 1v7 I guess technically. But yeah, one player, and I had gotten so good that I was in like the second place for Resistance 2 in US for like a month, and I was like, fuck God yeah. I played only that game and listened to Metallica for like an entire summer. Which is kind of an insane thing to say, but like literally school let out and I was like, it's Resistance 2 online time. So my buddy Seth, which is Saul's younger brother, which is how I met Saul, Seth would come over and we'd have both our TVs set up beside each other and we'd just be fucking going, and I'm playing, I'm like, all right, I gotta get this, and you know, we couldn't play together because it was free for all. So we would just every now and then we'd come into a lobby together and be like, hey, and then we'd keep going. And I was just burning the midnight. Oh, he'd hit me up at like 9 at night. What you doing? I'm playing Resistance. Next morning, be 12 o'clock, which is not really morning, but I'd barely woken up. What you doing? Playing Resistance 2.
So you did all that and you don't have the platinum in Resistance 2?
I don't, and I don't even know why, but I wasn't into platinums at that point. Like, you know, I wasn't worried about that.
Do you have the 10,000 kills trophy?
Maybe. I might.
You probably could get the platinum still.
I think I think all those servers have been closed, my guy.
But that's what I'm saying. If you have that trophy,
you might be right.
If you have that trophy, I would assume you have the rest of the trophies. So
well, now you got me curious. The last one I'm going to do,
I'll look while you talk.
Yeah. The last one that I'll kind of go through just because I think it's a funny memory of being irresponsible is I started as a transport tech at a local hospital. And that was when the Vita was coming out. I had been working at the hospital for a while and I worked overnight shifts. So I worked 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so I couldn't actually go to the midnight release for the Vita. So instead, after working an entire 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, I went to my grandpa's house, which is where I'm at now. I didn't live here at the time, but I came here because it was in town and I lived in the country. So couldn't afford the gas. That was when gas was like $4 a gallon and my truck took a gallon to get to town and a gallon to get back home. So I drove to my grandpa's, put a mattress that was like in a side room on the floor in the living room, passed out for an hour and a half, woke up, went and got the Vita, spent the entire day playing the Vita. But I had barely started at the hospital, and they give you one set of scrubs. Then they give you a stipend to go buy sets of scrubs. And it was like $150 because scrubs are kind of expensive.
Of course.
And I had to have them quickly. So they're like, here, this is what you do. This is a store you should go to. This is who we have a partnership with. I went to GameStop and just spent my entire stipend on Vita games. And I had one set of scrubs that I had to wash every single night. And I hand washed them because I was like, I can't justify washing a set of scrubs in the washer by themselves. So I'd turn my bathtub on, get some detergent, and scrub it together and throw them in the dryer to dry. Every day for like the first 6 months before I was like, I should probably buy some more scrubs.
That's so funny. It's true though. Like industry clothes is so expensive. I have like 4 or 5 chef coats and they're all like $50. And my mom was like,
because like now you can get scrubs at Walmart. You couldn't whenever I did that.
Yeah. My mom was saying the other day, is like, does your job pay you for those? I'm like, no, they don't even require them. But I like to look like an adult. So I fucking wear a shirt. Because that's the thing, like, I'm the KM, but like I have to run food and like sometimes an expo. Like I used to do it like how I would dress. Like I wear this shirt sometimes to work. And it's like I can't go talk to customers in this. So I started wearing chef coats. I hate
and listen, I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, but like I remember when I first became into the sales position, and before that I was where I work now. I started in the shipping dock, and after about a year, I moved up into. They asked me to be for a company they had just bought locally that was a furniture company. They were like, "Hey, we need a logistics manager, and everybody out here says you're way smarter than this position's worth for, and all that. You're a good employee, all that." So they asked if I wanted to do that. So I moved over to that, but I was working at a computer, and I would still occasionally go out into our warehouse and like rearrange pallets of stuff that was coming in because I was having to be the person scheduling our installs and what was coming in, doing our orders. So I could wear whatever; they didn't care. But then whenever they moved me into sales, they were like, "Oh, well, you need to wear a polo." And thankfully, this didn't come back to bite me in the face, or bite me in the ass, rather, I guess. But to this day, my thing is, I will wear anything that you want me to wear during the work hours. But if you require it, you will pay for it. And so I wear jeans to work every day, even though my boss originally was like, I want you to wear some kind of slacks. And I was like, I don't own slacks. I don't wear slacks in my personal life. I will not buy slacks that I only wear for work. That's not my responsibility. I was like, that's just not my business. But so she bought me a bunch of polos that are all branded. And that's how I go about my work. And
she's so much nicer than me. That's the difference. That's a salesman versus a chef. Because if you said that shit to me, I would have fired you.
Well, to be fair, at that point,
yes, it is.
I'd been with the company for quite a long time. And even now, I have a work phone and a personal phone. And she was like, why don't you just let your work phone be your personal phone? Because almost everyone does. And I'm like, she's like, that way you don't have to pay. And I was like, no. Because when I'm not at work and it's not work hours, guess who's not touching that fucking phone? If you call me on it all day long, you have the number? Great. Guess who's not answering it? If it's not work hours, fuck
I'm
you.
not touching it. That was Sinopolis offered us that because we have to use our phones a lot because it was Teams and all this kind of shit.
Sure.
And they're like, we'll pay you for your phone bill. And then I like looked into it and they had full access to my personal phone.
Nope.
I was like,
not even a little bit.
He was like, so did you look into it? And I was like, I would quit this job before giving you access to my phone.
Yeah.
Like, really? We're not actually going to do anything. I'm like, no.
It's not about whether you actually will. That's like how you said, we're not going to spy on you from the U.S. government. We just want to make sure that we're protecting against terrorists. And now they just listen to everything we do all the time.
Exactly.
Because we gave them the ability to do it.
No chance. I don't know.
Yeah, insane. But I always thought it was so funny that I had what's worse is I still worked at GameStop at the same time as the. So I go to GameStop and my manager is like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Listen, they gave me this stipend. This was a week after the thing had come out. I'd ran through Little Deviants and I had ran through Uncharted, and so I was like, I need some games to play, and so I bought I bought Ninja Gaiden Sigma. That was one. what was the other games that I bought? Because I bought Unit 13. And there was one more. I bought 3 games. I was like, fuck yeah, this is sick. This is going to be such a good time. And I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. It wasn't, this goes to show, like, I'm not going to say like I was like dirt poor, but like we grew up with not a lot of money. So I remember for a while, like during high school, maybe 9th or 10th grade year, for like the majority of the school year, we did not have a washing machine. And we could not really afford to go wash our clothes. Our dryer still worked. Up until like 4 years ago, the same dryer from the 1964 when my grandpa moved in is a gas dryer was still in this house. And the entire year we lived with my grandpa because we didn't have a house. So my grandpa let us move in with him. And not every night, but basically like once a week, I didn't have that many sets of clothes. I had to hand wash my clothes in our porcelain tub and then throw them in the dryer. And we didn't even have like detergent. I would just use the dish soap that we had and wash my clothes in the sink. And no one ever said anything. So I guess no one knew. But so when it came time, I was like, buy scrubs or just wash my scrubs a lot.
I mean, dude, honestly, like,
elsewhere.
I wear one pair of jeans and like, I'll do that maybe a day or two and then I wash them. And, I'm just ranting, but my mom's on this like only one load of laundry a day. I'm like, that's fucking outrageous. Like, I cannot physically do this.
That's crazy.
It's like just more and more. I'm like,
because there's 3 of us in our house, and I think that we probably usually do one day. Now, some days we'll go like 3 days without it, and then we'll just do all 3 in one day.
Yeah.
But point being is that it's still averaging out to 1 a day. I don't know, man. I mean, I rewear lounge clothes a lot. Like this shirt right here, I wore it for like an hour playing games the other night. And then whenever I went to bed, I sleep without clothes on because I get hot very easily. So I just took the shirt off, folded it back up, and put it in my drawer. And I took it out again today, like 3 days later. It doesn't smell like anybody wore it. And I was like, yeah, I'm lounging in the comfort of my own home in it.
I'm going to be real. I don't have a problem with anything you just said except the fact that you folded it and put it in a drawer. That part to me is crazy. You should have just left that shit on the floor next to your bed and be like, oh yeah, I'm not going anywhere today, and toss it on. Like, it's crazy to me that you folded it like it's clean.
Dude, what's so funny about that? Well, basically it is. It doesn't.
You wore it.
I mean, yes, I wore it, but for all intents and purposes, it's more clean than a shirt that's sat in your dresser drawer for 3 weeks in many ways, but it's fine. What's more funny is that when I fold clothes, like my wife won't fold my shirts for me because I fold my clothes. I guess I got this from my dad. I fold them like department store people do. Like my shirts are all perfectly folded and where like they all stack on top of each other perfectly. The neckline is the like center point and you can see the graphic and they're all just up. And my wife does the like in half and like shitty in half again. And I'm like, I don't even know what shirt that is. Like, what is folding it that way give me? So it's really funny. The things I'm particular about are super particular. I'm also really good at wrapping gifts because I'm just super particular about it. So like to the point where one time my friend got his wife something really a really big gift, and he was like, I need you to wrap it. And he was like, I'm going to tell her that I wrapped it, but I need you to wrap it for me.
See, that's funny because I can tell every gift that you've gotten sent from me that was wrapped by my mother.
That's super funny. At all. Yeah. Man. All right. Look, we've been ranting a while. We got one more thing that you for sure wanted to do. Happy 30th to PlayStation. It's a huge part of my life. I love the brand, but I'm not going to say blindly love it. But it's been with me since I was like 4. It's really difficult to separate yourself from it. And so I think it's, I get why people are Nintendo heads. I'm not a Nintendo head in the same way because that just wasn't the thing that I was stuck to. But man, I love PlayStation, and it's been with me through multiple big points of my life. And I can think back to different points of my life and be like, this was the thing I was doing on PlayStation at that time. It's a very interesting reference that you can always go back to because it's been like a constant in my life. It's like, what PlayStation console did you have? What games were you probably playing? So that's great. I'm glad to see that they're still around. There's things that they've changed that I wish that there's ways in which they've changed that I wish they hadn't. There's things that they do that I wish they wouldn't. But at the end of the day, it's still PlayStation. And, I hope that the day never comes where I feel like the thing that I fell in love with is just 100% gone. When that day comes, I'll either admit it and embrace it, or I'll just deny it and pretend that it never happened.
For my part, whatever you do, Sony, continue making the stocks that I own in Sony rise, please. It's been a good day for my portfolio.
Yeah. There are some moments we asked for y'all, and I like a lot of these. So I'm going to run through a few of them real quick. So I asked our people in our Discord and on Twitter about some of their favorite memories with the consoles or the brand for PlayStation and celebrating their 30th. The first one that we got came from Jehudi MD, longtime listener. He says, I remember the first time I started seeing images of these PS1 games in magazines, and I thought, what is this blocky mess? But then got one a year or so later and was blown away since then. The startup screen of the PS1, my first ever JRPG, Final Fantasy VIII, shout out, great game. Crash 2, Resident Evil 2, Metal Gear Solid. It was such a console. There are many moments after that with the subsequent generations, but the original marks my journey with PlayStation, and it has been a heck of one. Yeah, PlayStation 1, I am so glad that I had a parent that was into gaming for me to be able to just be there when PS1 was like, I remember PS1 slowly becoming a big deal and people being like, oh shit, fuck Sega. I mean, Nintendo's still kind of cool, but have you seen this PlayStation? And then being like, yeah, I have one. You want to know how I really know? This is another fun memory. I don't know what the fuck was going on, but after the PS1, the PS Mini, basically the PlayStation 1 Slim that they came out, our elementary school had it to where you could go to our library, check one out, and they would loan you a PS1 with a controller, with a memory card, and with a game that was like a learning game. But people would just go check it out and then go rent shit from Blockbuster to come home. And I remember that when my parents got divorced and my dad took the PS1 with him before they tried getting back together, and then he got the PS2, and then it was really over.
See,
I did that to be able to play.
That to me is how you know kids back then, like gaming culture was like not prevalent. And unless I'm wrong, but I feel like you as like a grade should have had like a collective like Final Fantasy VII playthrough that like you guys were all just doing on the same memory card, but like passing it around to each other. Like, oh, you're renting it out. I'm actually just going to play Final Fantasy VII. And then you guys all beat it together. Like that would be a story I'd want to hear.
Yeah, no, gaming wasn't quite there yet. No, kids were really into it, but like, Pokemon was like the go-to for kids. The moment I started talking about like Crash Bandicoot or fucking, there was a game that was called like Fahrenheit 97 or some shit.
911.
That was like, no, hold on. It's a racing game on PS1. And
I
it
thought
may
you were
not be
talking
Fahrenheit.
about the David Cage game.
No, you're talking about Indigo Prophecy.
Yeah, it's called Fahrenheit too, I think, right?
Yeah, it is. It's Fahrenheit, Indigo Prophecy. It goes by both. Great game. Also, whenever you started getting into like the nitty gritty PS1 games, or really just any PS1 game, people are like, "What?" And I'm like, I'm over here talking about Motor Tune Grand Prix, and they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And I'm like, I just want somebody to know about Motor Tune Grand Prix. And I remember playing Final Fantasy VIII was so weird because we rented it. And for the first 4 years after I beat Final Fantasy VIII, no one I knew had played the game at all. So finally, someone's like, bro, Final Fantasy VIII. And I'm like, you've played Final Fantasy VIII? And just having that revelation of like, finally, I could talk to someone about this game. And it's funny because when you're young, 4 years is a long time. Playing Final Fantasy VIII when I'm like 8, and then, hell, I was probably younger than that. And then talking to somebody about it when I'm 12 is a very different experience than talking about a game 4 years later now. So, but yeah, over on Discord, we got one from Rude Cold. He says, I'll always remember taking the day off school to collect my PS2 on release day and spending the day in the evening with friends playing Tekken Tag Tournament. Ooh, another memorable memory is getting Time Crisis for Christmas, and I would move my TV into the kitchen to play with my family around, and I got a massive blister from playing the game so much. Chris, you ever play any of the light gun games? It's every time I hear you talk about games, you're talking like original Xbox, and it's like you're kind of after the light gun craze.
I played whatever was in an arcade.
So you play like House of the Dead.
Yeah. Whatever.
Maybe Time Crisis.
Is it? Yeah, I mean, I played Time Crisis recently and hated it. What's the other game that was in arcades? Because it was the game that I thought Time Crisis was. And I can't remember. It was a shooting game. You played like, I think it was a cop. And it was light gun arcade game.
Is it Lethal Enforcers?
I'm gonna have to look. But I mean, that was my.
I mean, I don't know. Gun games are kind of weird. Virtua Cop?
Was it Virtua Cop?
I can't think of a lot of them. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of light gun games or gun style games like that. There's a Terminator one that's really sick. Actually, there's a Terminator Salvation one that's like newer. That's pretty good.
It was one where you had to. Is it Crisis Zone?
Crisis Zone.
That was the one where you had to stand on the pedal. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you could shoot and then you would stand on the pedal, and then if you wanted to take cover, you would come off and you would like shoot in the air.
Yeah,
and that's how you reloaded. Down.
Yeah,
that explains so much because I was so excited for Time Crisis, thinking it was Crisis Zone.
Well, Crisis Zone. That's interesting that you say that because I remember that, but I didn't realize it's either. It's a spinoff of Time Crisis.
It is, but it's not. Yes, but like the point I'm saying is what I thought was coming out and what came out were not the same video games. So I thought it was Crisis Zone.
Yeah, most of my light gun games were like Dreamcast and like kind of whenever you had that era. PS1 had a lot of that too, though, right? Where it's like finally arcade games can be played at home. But Dreamcast was like the real, like you're getting these bitches and they're really good quality. And here you are, you can play Crazy Taxi. You can play all these. Man, yeah, it's kind of crazy thinking about those games. Damn.
Dude, the Lost World one. Did you remember that one? Where you would get in the Jeep and then you would have to just go through the park. It's Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Dude, I used to like think that only one Chuck E. Cheese in the world had that game. And then the job I used to work at, Spare Time, they had one. And I was like, holy fuck. It's here. It exists. It's real. Like I always
love the random old game that the newer arcades tend to have. And I don't mean like Galaga or Pac-Man. It's like the old like deep cut that you're like, fuck yeah. Look at that. That's it. This is cool. Yeah. Damn, that's crazy.
They had the Halo game.
Fire Team
actually,
Raven.
Yeah, I played like halfway through that when
that game's
me and all my staff went bowling. And we were playing it in the arcade, and we played like half of it, and then I fucking crushed those little fuckers. It's like a bunch of employees, the other managers, like, yeah, let's go bowling, and I'm like, okay. And then I walk in, I've got my fucking bag of balls, put on my custom shoes,
and I know that someone laughed at you, and then you whooped their ass, and they're like, fuck.
Yeah, 100%.
So someone in their mind was like, look at Chris getting too into this.
Yeah. They're like, oh, you're a bowler. I'm like, yeah, why do you? Well, to be fair, they all know because I'm very vocal about don't fucking call me on Wednesday because I'm going bowling and I'm not. That's all. I'm not coming in.
Let's see. We're going to run through a few more. We have Aztec King says, one of my PlayStation core memories is little 12-year-old me sitting on my floor in shorts playing FIFA Street for hours while I sweat in the hot summer heat in Texas. God, I feel you. I don't really like sports games, but I loved FIFA Street, and my PS2 is where most of my gaming started. Yeah, it's funny. There's a lot of game types that I don't really like or play anymore, but PS2 just brought out the want to try and play anything. And some of those games are games I don't ever really have any other experience with, that genre, but boy, did I love that game. I talk all the time about Def Jam Fight for New York being a fucking killer game. I have never played another game remotely like it. And even though I fucking adored that game, I've never tried another one. But that's my go-to. Like, look at that shit. That's really cool. And yeah, a lot of the street games, I think that's a series of games I think people, maybe not enough to make them commercially viable, but there's definitely a market for that type of game, and we don't really get a lot of those. So, but man, for a while there, it was NFL Street, NBA Street, FIFA Street. So, all right, let's see. I'm gonna do one more. Okay, we got Stingray X, longtime listener, longtime patron. He says, about 29 to 30 years ago, I still remember playing the PlayStation for the first time at my dad's friend house, and it was Driver. Great game. I was instantly hooked. A short time later, my sister and I got DualShock, the DualShock bundle for Christmas. It's still my favorite Christmas memory and present. That's sick. Yeah. I remember getting the PS1 permanently handed down to us. At post divorce, I'm over here worried like I'm gonna have to go back to gaming on Sega Genesis. and then getting the actual thing, and like I remember shortly after divorce we both got the PlayStation 1 for Christmas, and then for my brother's birthday my dad basically was like, it's your present and like y'all's basically shared birthday presents. He got us the Dreamcast, which is pretty sick. And then that one was kind of unfortunate. It was like, cool, I got the Dreamcast. I can only play it when I'm at my dad's house. And that was like every 2 weeks, 2 days at his house. And it was just like, shit. But my dad was also like the religious like Blockbuster guy. So he had the Blockbuster card. We'd go and rent stuff out. I remember at one point we rented out for Sega Genesis whenever I was still pretty young. There was a Beavis and Butthead Sega Genesis game, and I don't remember it well because I was very young, 4 or 5. But I remember that there was a level where you like were at the school and you had to steal the TV from the hippie dude, the hippie teacher's office, and you got to try and roll it out, but something goes wrong and it like falls down the steps and gets broken. And even though if I really focus, I know the game didn't really look like Beavis and Butthead, but in my memory, it looked exactly like the show. Well,
that's like how MLB 2007 was the most realistic thing I'd ever seen in my life. And then now it's like I can count the pores on Vladimir Guerrero's face, and I'll look at that and go, that looks like shit.
It is weird how the needle moves though, because I remember the first time that MLB The Show, the Vita one was, I think it was MLB The Show 11, or maybe it's 12. The first one on Vita kind of blew my mind because like my buddy Andrew loves those games, and so I was like, I watched him playing. I was like, holy shit, dude, that looks incredible for like for a handheld baseball game. What are you talking about? Like, there's like cloth simulation on the dude's clothes. I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? That shit was crazy. But I know that we were gonna try and do our Wrapped, but unfortunately,
mine's up. I don't know if yours is.
I'm gonna try one more time. I stopped trying for a bit. It was doing the can't reach the server thing. Can't connect to the server. I'm going to try real quick on my phone just as a separate point. And if that doesn't work, then we'll just do the move into our Game Award predictions that you wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
But let's see. Last hope. 2024 wrap up. We'll be back soon. That's what it says on my phone.
Sick.
And this one right here just doesn't say anything.
Do you want to do mine, or do you want to save it for the next episode?
No, man, go ahead. I'm curious to see what yours was, because it's like every year, right? Like what your primary genre was, stuff like that.
Yeah. So this is my first time looking, so we'll see how embarrassed I get as this goes on. All right. So in 2024, I have played 280 games. 156 on PS5, 124 on PS4. My top 5 games. Brett, do you have any guesses on this? Give it a little interaction since I'm the only one going.
Top 5 for this year.
For some reason, I don't think you'll get the number 1, but it will be very obvious when I do give it to you. Which probably just told you what it was, but we'll see.
It's a Cyberpunk.
No, it's not.
I didn't think that seems too on the nose. Part of me wants to guess Final Fantasy 16 just because of the way that you went about approaching that game.
Oh,
so part of me
I know why you don't like Persona as much, because I don't like Final Fantasy 16 very much. After doing
there we have it. I get you. So anyway,
give me 5.
I at least want to know, is that in your top 5 at all?
Yes, it is in my top 5. Number 3.
Yeah, considering the amount of time, it just kind of felt like it had to have. Okay, let's think through. Balatro has to be number 1.
It's not number 1.
It's number 2?
Number 2.
You're kidding me.
Mm-mm.
Chris. Okay, so
it's close.
I should be able to guess your top game then?
Yeah. I don't think you'll guess it, but it will be so obvious when I say it. Do you have any other guesses on the other two?
Is it MLB?
It is MLB, yeah.
Okay. That's obvious in the sense that it's my fallback answer for anything for you.
Yeah. So do you have guesses on the other two? Give me quick guesses.
Okay. Other two. Shit, Chris, man, you've played so much this year. It's a little hard to tell.
I have played. But I've played 2 games specifically for a long amount of time. Like, it's kind of like you'll hear them be like, yeah.
I mean, if Cyberpunk's not in there, despite the fact that you just poured a bunch of time into it, which I don't know when they closed the wrap, so maybe Cyberpunk's just not making the cut.
Supposedly it's still updating.
Okay, well, I mean, fuck, we'll find out. Okay. Dude, I really don't have good... Part of me wants to say Final Fantasy VII, but I can't remember if that was end of last year.
That was last year.
Okay, that's
and
what
I didn't platinum it. I only played through it once, so...
Oh, you're right. You played it a couple of times, so your total hour count for the game is probably high, but not necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta say, I'm honestly surprised I got the top 3. So I have to.
All right,
I just have to tap out. I don't think I have it.
Where number 1 is MLB the 24 of the show with 214. Balatro was number 2 with 186.
Also, Jesus Christ.
Final Fantasy 16 with 114. Dave the Diver at number 4 with 102.
I thought that was last year.
No, it was this year.
It was early this year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then number 5 is Elden Ring with 95 hours.
I would have never guessed Elden Ring.
Really?
Ever.
I played it through twice on the show. That was like 3 weeks of my time.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just, I don't know. Dave the Diver, I guess, makes a little more sense. But either way, good to know. I'm glad that you were, that's what you hit. So what does that mean for your, I know your top 5 doesn't necessarily determine your primary genre, but let's keep hearing it because I'm a little curious.
My gaming style is the GOAT sports. I spent 10% of my time playing sports titles, which is very depressing because I would never call myself like a sports game guy. I'd call myself an MLB guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to look. Okay. Oh my God. Holy shit. This might be my record. In 2024, you played 2,098 hours. Dude, that's crazy. My play sessions, 2,535. I don't know what that means.
I don't know either.
That doesn't make much sense to me. I've earned 1,403 trophies this year, 16 platinums this year. I think that's actually 17 because it doesn't look like it's taking Cyberpunk into account. So multiplayer hours 243. I've joined 140 parties, which is insanely granular, and I love that it says that.
What a weird thing to track. How many parties did you enter?
16,
oh Lord, okay.
16 share play sessions, 156 messages sent, 18 new friends. 25 digital collectibles. So that's my year.
Damn. Oh, digital collectibles being like the PS Star stuff?
Yeah, the stars shit.
I didn't pay enough attention. Damn, I wish I could get mine to load, but I've been over here refreshing on the off chance that I'd be able to join you, and it's not going to happen.
Oh, that's too bad. So you want to go with TGAs then? Or do you want to do...
If I can get it set up before the end, we'll come back around to it. But
perfect.
Real quick before we go to that, does like True Trophies and the trophy websites, do they not do that same thing?
I don't know. They might.
I think they do, but I don't.
Okay, so here's my game. All right, we've got 11 questions that I'm going to ask. We're going to go relatively rapid fire. We can have conversations, but they're predictions. And then I'm going to keep score. So it's going to be Brett and then me. I made up the questions. I don't have answers. We don't have a third. There's nothing I can do. All right. Question number 1. Will Sony announce a new IP at the Game Awards?
Ooh. I'm going to say no.
Brett is a no. I'm going to say yes.
Not a new IP. And the main reason I say that is because I think we've heard of all the new IP. And some of them just aren't out. Like Concord was one of them. Haven's one of them. Now I know that there are more, but I don't think they're ready for it yet.
I'm saying yes because I've seen a couple tweets recently from Naughty Dog people talking about like a new chapter, a new start, and I'm like, maybe this is.
Do you think it's time for Naughty Dog?
I think it's time for Naughty Dog.
I would love to see that. I genuinely would love to see that. But my gut feeling for, in particular, what Naughty Dog is working on, because it has to be soon, but my gut's telling me it's a Summer Games Fest thing.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. Are you good?
Yeah. So I did find where True Trophies has got a thing for basically a very similar thing. And it shows my most played game to be fucking Persona 5 Royal.
I mean, that sounds about right.
At 141 hours.
Yeah, you fucked up somewhere, dude. I'm sorry.
Oh, Jesus. Anyway, continue.
So this says I unlocked 24 platinums this year, not 6 or 16.
Yeah.
All right.
My platinums this year, I think, was 34.
Jesus. Question number 2. How many Tencent or Tencent adjacent games will be announced?
Oh, Jesus, dude.
I'm talking about like the level infinite.
Like everything.
I'm not talking about like Tencent owns a share in From Software. I'm talking about Tencent or the level infinite shit, any of that.
I'm going to be really honest. I'm super ignorant here. I know that Tencent's got their hands in a lot of things, but I don't keep up with them enough to know what kind of games to expect from them. Now, I mean, probably if you really think, because I've noticed a trend recently with Game Awards and Summer Games Fest, anything with Jeff Keighley, there's a lot of games from the Chinese market and for the Chinese market, and same for some of the Japanese gacha. I'm gonna give 4. 4 games.
Okay.
4 games total.
To be cleared, they own Aurora Studio Group, Lightspeed Studios, More Fun Studios, Next Studios, Timmy Studios, and Tencent Institute of Games.
Okay.
I'm sure there's more than that, but there you go. So you're going with 4?
Yep.
I will go with 2.
I almost did 3, but I figured I want to be a little more bold.
Okay. So this question, there have been rumors of multiple holy shit moments happening at the Game Awards. How many holy shit moments do you think will be at the Game Awards?
Hopefully one. Hopefully at least one. Let me ask you a slightly different question that I am curious. When was the last time that you felt like there was a holy shit moment at the Game Awards?
Not one time.
The most common one was before it was even the Game Awards. It was when it was still on Spike and it was The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And that was oh shit. Okay.
That does not count. That is not the same show.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure, and I want to say that this is specifically Game Awards. I want to say the last time I remember really being like holy shit at anything, and I think TT Dog listened to us at the time. The last time I can remember really truly being like holy shit during anything in relation to the big moments like at those shows was when they announced Sekiro and Activision was the publisher. Because Saul and I were both like, what the fuck?
So what I'm looking for is specifically
that was
holy
E3,
shit,
I think.
that game got announced. That's what I'm looking for. And what I will say is I'll go back and I'll say I might be wrong if this wasn't announced here, but Alan Wake 2 would have been my holy shit moment from the Game Awards.
I think Alan Wake 2 might have been at the Game Awards, but that wasn't a holy shit for me because I didn't love Alan Wake as much as you did at that point. Alan Wake 2 is a significantly better game than Alan Wake 1.
That was a holy shit moment because I never thought it would happen.
Yeah. That's fair.
So
that's fair.
What's your bet? 1?
And that's being hopeful.
I'm going to price it right here. I'm going to.
How do you win this? Because I think the problem with holy shit moment is by whose metric?
Mine.
The questions are loaded.
I made them up. There's nothing I can do here.
How about this, Chris? I am the one determining it for you and you for me.
That'll
or
be
rather, My one is if you have a moment, if you have one moment where during the thing you go, holy shit, then I win.
Yes.
But so this means we could both technically win, because if
Yeah.
you say 2 and I have 2 holy shit moments, you also win.
Yeah, there's no stakes. I'm just Question number 4. Will there be a visible please wrap it up sign?
No, because they did not like the negative feedback they got for that, even though I'm not saying it wasn't somewhat necessary. I understand why they had it. I think that they went about showing it in a bad way. They will do everything they can to hide it.
All right, so I've written down here, Brett, no, bad look. Chris, yes, painful necessity.
I don't think you're wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong either.
No, exactly. All right, question 5. Will Grand Theft Auto 6 be at the Game Awards?
Yes.
Wow.
That's a bit of a ballsy one, but I think yes.
I'm going with absolutely fucking not.
I want to go into that for just a second. Do you think the reason for you, and I'm not going to change my answer, so don't worry about that. The reason for you is because you think that this is one of the games where it literally just doesn't need to stand beside anything else. So why would Rockstar not just do it as its own reveal?
Yes, but maybe this is me being a little parasocial. I don't think Jeff Keighley wants his show overshined.
And well, hold on. So what are you saying, that Grand Theft Auto 6 being at his show
takes
will
over
be
the entire
so
show.
big that I think he would like that because it still has the Game Awards attached to it. If anything, I think he would hate Grand Theft Auto 6 being anywhere near the Game Awards. Like, this is what he would hate. If
the trailer tomorrow
tomorrow
morning.
Yes, that's exactly
I could
what
see that too. Didn't they? They did that. No, they did that last time, didn't they? It was the Game Awards were like a couple days before the first Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer.
Was it Game Awards or was it Summer Game Fest? Which is still,
I feel like it was
from the Game Awards,
but I don't remember, because I do remember like tweeting something, laughing that they did this on purpose.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm being a little hopeful for Jeff. Every year he's trying to find a way to make it bigger or better. And I think that he has known and has been thinking about how he's going to get the actual first full-on gameplay reveal for Grand Theft Auto at his show. Doesn't mean he'll succeed.
Gameplay. He won't get gameplay. We'll shot.
See, because here's the thing. If it's there and it's just a trailer, I think that that's honestly, people will be excited. It'll be fine. But I don't think that that's in the spirit of what he wants out of the Game Awards. He wants first. And the reality is we've gotten a in-engine footage trailer of Grand Theft Auto 6 already. You're
talking about the exact reason why I don't think he would ever want it there. Because this is Grand Theft Auto. He wants first. Suck my dick. We're Rockstar. We'll give you just like 5 seconds of the trailer we're actually releasing on YouTube later and still be bigger than your show. That's the problem. Anything they do, yeah, maybe it has the Game Awards name on it, but you and I both know that the Rockstar official channel one will not have the Game Awards one on it, and that's the one that will do more. People will see Grand Theft Auto 6 on the Game Awards. That's all they will talk about, and then they will go to Rockstar's YouTube channel for the 100 million views that they're going to get for it.
Interesting. Yeah, I look, I'm being hopeful with mine, but I don't see you necessarily being wrong. I'm hoping that Jeff's actually stepping it up. Though, am I crazy? Did I hear someone say the other day that they have a random band performing at the Game Awards again?
What band is that?
I don't know. I hope that we're just wrong.
Was it Imagine 2024?
Dude, I don't know, but I fucking hated back when they used to do here are Red Ray's Room or whatever, and it's like, the fuck does this have to do with gaming? You're just trying to get eyes on this for random shit. You want people who don't care about gaming to watch this because they want to see. They'd never get Taylor Swift, but
I would shit my pants.
Exactly, but
shake it off, Jeff. Yes.
I really enjoyed when they stopped worrying about that and they started making the musical performance just the orchestra pulling in the game themes. That is actually the only part I consistently enjoy about the Game Awards in the last few years is the having the orchestra play the themes for the soundtrack whenever they're going through the soundtrack. And then for the game of the year, they do the medley where all of them are kind of like tied together. That shit's really cool. I think it's far more like ceremonial towards gaming and appreciating what the art is than having somebody play a bunch of songs that have nothing to do with gaming inherently.
Imagine dragging these nuts. Number 6. Will Hideo Kojima announce any details about Death Stranding 2, Fizzant, or OD during his 20-minute monologue?
Ooh, you made it a little harder because my thought process is very unlikely for Fizzant. And I think ultimately I'm iffy on OD. I think we see Death Stranding 2 here.
Okay.
The only reason I'm hesitant on that is because Sony has really shown this year that they are very comfortable just doing state of plays and having it to be that the reason you're at state of play is because you know you're going to. If Ghost of Yokai or whatever the fuck it's called, Yote, as it is, if Ghost of Yote hadn't been announced during a state of play, I might be a little more like for sure. I'm going to say no. I'm going to be ballsy. No, we're not going to learn about any of them. If we do, maybe OD.
I'm also a no. We will be getting the sequel podcast. Okay, this is a fun one. How many games will I be personally excited about after the Game Awards? Just fucking... This is fine. Go.
So how many games will Chris be excited for after the Game Awards?
Correct.
3.
3. I'm going to go with 5. All right. Question number 8. How many games will you be excited about after the Game Awards?
3.
Chris. 9.
I feel a need to ask for a little clarification on what excited means.
That's up to you, dog. This is a question about your feelings. You tell me how many games you were excited for after the Game Awards.
Yeah, if I'm using my own internal thought of what I'm probably going to find exciting, I'm going to stick with 3, yeah.
You can lie if you want. Like, I'm not your mom.
All right, next one.
My actual answer is 5 for the record. How many new game announcements will be at the TGAs?
Okay, this one's fun. So literally never before heard of or seen anywhere else, right?
Yes, announced at the Game Awards. World premiere.
World premiere. Literally never talked about until Game Awards, because he'll still use world premiere for the first time we see gameplay of something, even if we knew about it.
New game announcements.
Full on new game announcement.
If this was like a Double Fine game and they acknowledged the existence of a Double Fine game, that's not them announcing the game. But you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get it.
It's like Neil Druckmann saying, I have another game coming, and then announcing a game would still be a new game announcement.
A new announcement. I agree.
Right.
I agree.
Okay.
But I think it's also different saying, like, it'd be different if Naughty Dog posted on Twitter, like, our next game is Savage Space. We'll talk more about it when it's ready. That one feels a little more on the line, because at that point they've acknowledged what it is. Mm-hmm. Given basically, and if they were like, hey, it's Savage Space and it's a space-rooted RPG, I feel like that's enough detail. As it's very different than going, hey, we're Naughty Dog, clearly our next game is coming up. So, but I'm gonna make the question easier. Okay.
Yeah. How many new game announcements? How many new games will we see at the TGS? I think that takes any controversy out of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a round about 4.
4.
Do you feel like in your gut that you've noticed that the last few years has been less of those?
Yes. It's been a couple, and then it's been I didn't know if it was COVID. Holy shit, I spent all my money on Elden Ring.
Yeah, but I didn't know if it was COVID, so I might be underswinging, and now that COVID's kind of things have ramped back up from COVID, maybe this is a year where we see a lot of them again. But they've been shrinking, and games are taking really long time to make. So I'm gonna go with 4.
Okay. We go with 4.
There's one question I'm really curious if it's going to be in your list or not.
We'll see. You can add it. I'm gonna go with 5.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna switch because I have to look something up quick. All right. Question 10. Give me one guess on an announcement not already announced or teased. And by that I mean Borderlands 4 is already confirmed to be there. You can't pick Borderlands 4.
So it can be any game, even if we've heard about it before.
Yep,
but it's
just
here.
One guess that we're going to see at the Game Awards.
I'm going to be the biggest optimist in the world.
Okay.
And I'm going to say we finally get any kind of acknowledgement, existence, update on Hollow Knight Silksong.
That's honestly a pretty good one.
It feels like it's been so long. There's no way it's not somewhere soon, or that game is just never going to happen. I don't know. I'm losing my hope.
I don't think it's coming. My guess is Judas.
Okay. You think
All
they're
right.
right? Because last year was the first reveal of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number
yeah,
11, the obvious one. What game wins Game of the Year at the Game Awards? Oh, this is what I was looking up. So our nominees:
the nominees,
Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantasio.
This sounds like I'm saying something mean, but I think it just doubles back around to the conversation we had about the fact that I don't even think it needs to be here. I feel like Shadow of the Erd Tree is going to win, and it's going to annoy me.
We are on the same page. However, because there are no stakes and we are just having fun, I am going to go with Balatro.
Dude, I honestly, I think Balatro might deserve it the most out of everything here.
I agree.
And I say that with, I want to make sure everyone's aware. I have not played Metaphor, Black Myth, or Elden Ring.
I have played Elden Ring.
It's very unfair,
Metaphor,
but yeah.
It's Game of the Year. All right, we have one bonus question. Will Blue Point's Bloodborne 2 or remake be at the Game Awards?
In my heart, it's no.
Okay.
I hope it is, but the reason I think it's a no is, well, I still think that Bloodborne 2 is very unlikely. I think a Bloodborne remake or remaster would be more likely before we'd see a Bloodborne 2, definitely because of the way that the fan base reacts to Miyazaki-led games. So there's that. But if it wasn't for the fact that Blue Point have been so adamant that the next thing they're working on is original, I would say that it's been long enough and it's time for us to see what they're working on. And it should be a remake or a remaster. Is what I think, because we talk about all the time. You buy them for that reason, and that's just not what's happened. So I'm curious to hear your answer.
Yes.
Okay. Which one do you think it's going to be of the two?
Remake.
It's not going to make your remake. Okay.
Yeah, I think remake ends with a tease for Bloodborne 2. So we get, they do like kind of a.
Now, are we calling a From Software Bloodborne 2?
Blue Point's making Bloodborne 2.
I love that you couldn't keep it straight. But I also respect the dedication. I mean, just I'm going to ride this wave until because basically you can never be wrong until Bloodborne 2 comes out.
Exactly.
And it's not from them. That's the only time that you can be 100% wrong is if Bloodborne 2 comes out and it was not made by them. That's the only time you fucked up. Because you'll even be on a technical. If they make a Bloodborne game, but they don't call it Bloodborne 2, they call it Bloodborne and then give it like a surname, you're still going to be like, Bloodborne 2 can still come from Blue Point. It's not impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not wrong. I'm just not right yet.
See, now you understand. All right, Brett, that's all I had for you. So those are my 11 questions.
Okay, I want this. You don't have to add this one in there, but while we're on the topic of Blue Point, what do you think the chances are that we see what Blue Point is working on here? I know that you're saying yes to this, but if in the world and in the scenario in which it is not Bloodborne related.
To be
Do
clear,
you
if there
think
were
we
real
see it?
stakes, I would say no. No, I don't think so.
Yeah. How long before you think we see that? Because they have been
26.
pretty much dead silent since.
I think that's we're teasing the PS6 and here's the launch day game.
Dude. Does it not bum you a little bit that we're in an era of making games in which a studio releases one game a generation, pretty much?
Well, I think in this case, like, again, this is what I don't understand about the decision of buying them and having them do new stuff. It's that you're having them learn an entirely new discipline. Not a new discipline, but like, it's a lot harder to write Dracula than it is to copy Dracula. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah. I get exactly
like,
what you're saying. Like,
I have to.
The difference is that it's a very different thing to faithfully recreate something
Then make it
from the ground up, or to do a really specific job on remastering something and using the same code but finding a way to make it present better, which is what they've always done. Now, to be fair, for anyone who doesn't know, this team was made up from people who made Metroid Prime originally. So these are people who are like really prestigious developers who just left that side of the industry to instead start Blue Point, and then ended up working on becoming the de facto go-to. If you want a good remaster, it's Blue Point. And then they became you want an incredible remake, it's Blue Point. So it is crazy to hear that they're going the other direction, because nothing about them screams that that's obvious. But it's cool they're getting to do it. It's just, it seems crazy, because I think you're arguably right, because it seems like any new IP, when you actually start digging into how long it took to really get the IP going, 6 years is a pretty common timeline for a new IP or a drastic shakeup. Like God of War 2018 was like a 5 or 6 year development.
Hero Shooter, 8 years.
Yeah. So when you look at, who knows about the reports on that? But either way, knowing that a new IP is like is a 6 year thing, and a studio who's not even known for doing that, and this is their first time making original content as a studio under this umbrella, that's crazy. Yeah, it's super unfortunate. But even when you go through that, Naughty Dog is on this great technical thing where right now they can say they've released so many games this generation because every remaster they've done a remake. But I think if we're being all honest with ourselves, Naughty Dog has not released anything this generation.
Yeah. Well, Last of Us Part 1. Technically, sorry.
I mean, yeah,
it's true. All right.
If it was Blue Point, I'd be like, they've released that. That counts. For Naughty Dog, that doesn't count.
Oh, that seems like an interesting shift. That's all I have for TGAs, man. We promised trivia. Do you want to go through my 11 trivia questions and then end the show, or do you not want to do it? It's up to you.
Let's go. Let's blast these.
Let's go. All right. Video game trivia. Now, keep in mind, the highest score I got on this was 4.
Shit, 4 out of 11.
Dude, I'm sorry. People make me laugh during trivia because sometimes I'll put the answer in the question and they'll still get it wrong.
Great. Let's go.
I did. What is the bar from Cheers called? And they got it wrong. I'm like, it's fucking Cheers. What monster is known for living in the Loch Ness area of Scotland? And people said Bigfoot.
Bruh.
It's a Loch Ness monster, motherfuckers. Anyway, all right. Question 1. Which video game franchise features a protagonist named Master Chief?
Halo.
What was the first commercially successful video game?
Ooh. Pac-Man?
Pong.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
What? Are you going to be a complainer?
No,
complainers.
No, in my mind, I was like, why didn't I go further back? Obviously, it's Pong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the game that launched home consoles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
In what year was the Nintendo Entertainment System released in North America?
Oh, that's a good one. 86?
85.
I'm damn close.
What is the best-selling video game of all time? I should have spaced out the answers more.
Grand Theft Auto 5?
No.
Or is it Minecraft?
It is Minecraft.
You're right. It's good Lord.
Minecraft has sold over 300 million copies.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5 is still insane. But yes,
140 something. In The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, what is the name of the horse Link rides?
Epona.
Correct. What is the name of the vault where the protagonist starts their journey in Fallout 3?
Oh, shit. Fuck. Oh, man. I hate this. As soon as you say it, I'm like, of course.
Yep.
Vault 3.
No. Vault 101.
There we have it. Yeah. I'm just over here trying to picture their back. The whole time I'm like, fuck, what is it?
Yep. What is the name of the antagonist team in Pokemon Red and Blue?
In Red and Blue, Team Rocket?
Correct. You know what the most popular answer to that question was? It was Gary. And I'm like, you didn't read the question. In Final Fantasy VII, what is the name of Sephiroth's sword?
Oh, Masamura.
Masamune.
Oh, you're right. Masamura's the other one. Shit. Whatever. It is what it is. I'm sure I was closer than most people's.
Yeah, I think only one or two people got that one. Which game series features the phrase Fus Ro Da as part of its iconic gameplay mechanics?
I mean, you could say Skyrim, but I guess if you actually go towards the thing, it'd be the Elder Scrolls.
That is the correct answer. So many people were pissed.
Yeah. The technicalities in the phrasing of the question.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
The
problem there is that Skyrim is the only one that's actually a thing. So your question is a little misleading because the franchise is not known for Fus Ro Da.
Correct.
Though at the same time, it's most known for Fus Ro Da. So I don't know. Yeah.
There's a technicality in this one too, which I had to give someone. I was like, I respect this answer. In the Witcher series, what is Geralt of Rivia's nickname? There's two acceptable answers. Technically, I only wanted one, but there's two acceptable answers.
I feel like I should know this, and yet
it's an easy one once you know.
Nothing comes to mind. I mean, Witcher.
That was also one of the more popular answers. No, the answer I am looking for is the White Wolf. However,
that's right.
I also accepted the Butcher of Blaviken because I was like,
yeah, that's actually a great answer.
Someone wrote that, and I was like, that wasn't what I was looking for, but you know ball. And I just walked away.
It counts.
Yep.
Yeah.
So bonus question. What is the Konami code and what does it traditionally unlock in classic games?
Good Lord. Is it up, up, down, down, left, right, left, right?
Oh, you're right at the end.
L1, R1, fucking. Nope. I'm trying to remember because I'm trying to. It was L1, but it'd be left, right. I'm trying to remember what systems it was on and if shoulder buttons were on the NES. Or if those were SNES specific. I didn't play a lot of NES. I don't think it had shoulder buttons. So it'd be up, up, down, down, left, right, A, B. Fuck. Does it keep with the AABB?
Nope.
Fuck, I don't know.
Up, down, down, left, right, B, A, start.
I wasn't far off, but you know.
It traditionally unlocks extra lives or cheats in games like Contra.
Yeah. I know it's really the Contra code but it just became known as the Konami code. But
yeah, because it was copied and pasted into all the other stuff. So
yeah.
Yeah, man. That's it. That was gaming trivia for this week.
Not
I have
bad.
a ton more questions, but
not bad at all. Not bad at all. So how's trivia? I mean, is that still something you're enjoying doing whenever it comes time?
Dude, it's one of those things. I don't know how to take it, but like I get fucking paranoid about it. I get paranoid about my questions. I get paranoid that they're all going to hate me. And like I go in there and fucking they love me. I fucking kill it. Fucking kill it. but like I hate doing it. Every time I'm like dreading starting. And then they're like, they're all having a good time. Like I have fucking trivia regulars, which is a little weird, but like
That's a bit odd, yeah.
I get so nervous about it, dude. But the end, it's over, and I get $100, so it's kind of worth the time.
No, that's pretty cool. I wish, and I know that it probably doesn't matter, but as somebody who doesn't have any interest in drinking, it's always been something where I don't know how I feel about going to trivia because I inherently like trivia. Most of the time, I feel like the environment for trivia is very bar focused. It's about drinking and being there and having fun. And it probably isn't. I'm probably more in my head about it than I need to be. But it's just, a bar is not a normal environment for me. It was the same thing that made, we don't have a lot of venues around here that aren't specifically bar focused. So whenever I was doing band stuff, it's like, it's really hard because it's like you're playing at bars and I don't frequent bars. So it was very difficult to find places to play and to have to put myself out there and get used to being in bars for when we did start doing shows. So like, this is awkward.
I can only speak for my restaurant, but like, it's not, it's you're upstairs where the bar is, but like families come and do my trivia. That's why I don't have like crazy ass questions,
Yeah.
Like it's easy, but no, I mean, it's fun. It's fun doing stuff. Like I got people with this one in Greek mythology. Who is the god of wine?
Oh, Dionysius or whatever.
Correct. But the answer I got a lot was Bacchus. Or Bacchus in Roman mythology.
Oh yeah. That's a great trick one because in many ways the pantheons are very mirrored.
Yeah, they're all the same. Even fucking Christianity is the same. So yeah, what is the name of the cursed video game character rumored to haunt old arcade cabinets in the 1980s?
I don't know if I know this one.
Polybius.
I have never heard this.
That is from Urban Legends and Myths trivia. That one's
cool, but interesting. See, that's the thing about trivia that I do like is that when you don't know it, you learn something.
Yeah, it was so funny. Like today, I made my questions a lot harder, and people were like actively like getting annoyed about it. One guy comes up to me. This is a douchebag. He's probably never going to come. I hated him. But he just comes up and he goes, "Can we have the questions more well-rounded next time?" And I was like, "No." And I just walked away. Like, I make the fucking categories, dude. Like, they're all different each round. We had fads, bar trivia, and urban legends and video games. It was fun.
That's fun. I don't know how you would pull it off, but essentially a similar environment, but basically like Jeopardy. That would be so interesting to see if you could pull off. Where it's you have your topics and you can choose one. That would be interesting. Maybe do a hybrid where like every table you move between, and then that table votes on the topic for that round.
Ooh. Family Feud would be so fun. I wonder if
Family Feud would be pretty wild. Yeah,
I want to do a category.
How do you poll the bar beforehand?
That would actually be fucking great. I want to do one where I play snippets of like old commercials, like the ShamWow and shit. Be like, what's the product? But I'm a little nervous about it because it's a lot of work more than anything else.
That's a lot of work, and you have to edit. Like you have to for real edit to make sure that you cut off. Yeah,
but
that'd be good. All right, man.
I'm enjoying it. You should come to trivia.
I'm glad to hear it. I will fly there. How about this, Chris? If the day comes that you do move down here, as you continue to flirt with the idea, I will join you for trivia here. You will be the person I break out of my trivia shell for, and we'll go find local trivia. They do it. I see it. I just don't ever go.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really like trivia.
We'll go find somewhere for you to host trivia.
I'm joking. I would obviously play trivia,
and then I'll show up to your hosted trivia.
Perfect. That's all I want. I'll end up, if I do come down there, I'll end up running a restaurant, so I'm sure I'll have to do trivia. I'll have to get a trivia guy.
There you go. All right, man. It's time to wrap this show up. Let's go ahead and thank our patrons who make this show possible. Thanks for joining us every week or every other week now and being part of this. Glad we get to do it. We thank them at the end of every episode as just a means of being able to kind of show that appreciation. So without further ado, if I closed it somehow, some way. But we want to shout out Duh Overlord, Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Stingray X, Matt Tubbs, Easton328, Lecheon69, Bailey Robertson, Mark Schutz, Rude Days 93, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Villobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Derek Porter, Matthew Green, and Sean Sanderud. Thanks to each and every one of you, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
So, Kyrie, what's your first memory with PlayStation? First memory.
Oh.
Yeah, turn around and talk in the microphone.
Well, hello. I think it was Crash Bandicoot because I sucked at it, but sometimes it was fun.
And what do you remember about it?
That I sucked at it. But it was funny because we would both laugh at me.
Yeah. What was the level that you played? Do you remember?
Like 5? I don't know.
Not the number. Do you remember what the level had in it?
Like boxes.
Yeah. What else?
I don't know. I don't remember.
How old do you think you were?
Like 7?
No.
Or younger?
So much younger.
4.
Younger.
I don't know.
Grandpa was still alive. You were 3.
Okay.
Or you might have been 4. Grandpa might have just passed. Or was it? Yeah, I think that's actually right. Either way.
I want to redo it.
We're not redoing it. That's it.
No.
That's the thing about podcasts. You can't redo them. Tell everybody bye.
Bye-bye. I spit on your microphone.